Let's see. The future of the race to world first and why Method is not working with Red Bull. Why Method is no longer working with Red Bull. Method decided to stream the race to world first for the first time in Old Deer. We reached out to Red Bull, and let me actually just put on some song so I can like have something going on be in the background. I feel awkward when I'm talking without music sometimes. Okay, just give me 1 second. All right. Method decided to stream the race to world first for the first time in Old Deer. We reached out to Red Bull and brought them on to sponsor the event and provide a venue. The Old Deer world first race was a huge success. Over 6 million unique devices tuned in, and overall 10 million viewer hours were accumulated. In comparison, this is more than twice the viewer hours of Overwatch League playoffs in 2018. Well, that's because nobody cares about Overwatch League. Red Bull saw the magnitude of Race to the World First, and what is this? Race to World First. Okay, and decided that they wanted to own and operate the event themselves. After Old Deer, they started pushing us to have the Race to World First streamed on Red Bull's Twitch channel. We, of course, rejected for many reasons, including, most importantly, we see long-term damage of handing off the 14-year community to run World First competition through a third-party corporation. Only the community and Blizzard themselves should have ownership over the World First race. And also because Method had no partnership nor had received any direct compensation from Red Bull. The Race to World First live stream channel was the only way to interact with the viewers and to bring on sponsors. If we handed off the live stream to Red Bull, then we wouldn't be able to compensate the players that compete in the Race to World First. So but they can't negotiate a contract deal? Well, it wasn't that they can't negotiate. I mean, like, at a certain point, like, sometimes you reach a point where there isn't a negotiation that makes both parties happy, right? Like, sometimes...
Well, keep reading, dude.
Okay. So, basically, I do agree with this point. Like, putting it on Red Bull's Twitch channel would be stupid. The Twitch channel that Red Bull does it, there's no reason to do this. It brings in no unique viewers, it's bad, and whoever is making decisions over at Red Bull doesn't understand viewer behavior, and them trying to have this as a selling point, they're wasting the company's money by trying to do that. It just makes no sense at all. Okay, it's a very, very stupid thing. Okay, just 1 second, let me look at the rest of these. Okay, stream it from your homie's house. Look, let me go to the rest of this here. There are no compromises that can be made. Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have different goals and it just doesn't work out. The above is a key discussion point for months, so we tried to find a solution. In hindsight, we should have gone our separate ways at this point. However, we were constantly given hope and a solution was coming, and at the same time, we did hold the Red Bull brand in high self-esteem, and we wanted to give a fair compromise. Finally, 2 weeks before the release of Battle to Zara Lord, the Raid Dungeon, Red Bull agreed to have the live stream remain on Method's Twitch channel. Furthermore, Red Bull indicated that the long-term partnership could happen after the completion of the BOD Race to World First. Unfortunately, the 2-week turnaround meant that we couldn't take action on unlocking the event's full potential, such as Method's plans to include other guilds and generally develop the event into something bigger. Despite this, the event was another huge success, even surpassing the viewership during Old Deer. Wait, really?
Was it?
I don't remember that at all. Like, yes, dude, are you high? BOD
okay,
did better for sure. Okay, all right. Well, it doesn't matter. I don't remember. I thought it didn't do as well, but who cares? Nothing materialized after BOD. Instead, Red Bull continued to pursue the route of trying to take ownership of the Race to World First events. It was very disappointing for us at Method, as I think anyone who tuned into the last Race to the World First events can appreciate how much value Red Bull has gained from their involvement. As the Esports Observer put it, the stream featured constant presence of Red Bull, giving the brand access to millions of hours of viewership. I think that's absolutely true. Because they pay for retail, plenty of good things. Well, wait a minute. Like, what do you mean? That has nothing to do with it. Okay, let's see here. When dialogue remained open, it was leaked to us that Red Bull reached out to Limit and Pieces to plan an event called Red Bull's World First.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. I don't know who those guys are, but oh, no, dude.
Look at that face, dude.
Oh, shit.
That guy's pissed. That guy's so mad. Like, I don't even know what the hell he's mad about, but I know he's mad. Okay, Dota 2 casters. Yeah, I have no idea. Okay, so let's go with the rest of these. Okay. Red Bull had gone behind our back, and after seeing their presentation to Limit and Pieces, it was apparent that they had taken a lot of our ideas and concepts for expanding the Race to World First. Red Bull will therefore likely be putting on their own event for 8.2 The Eternal Palace with Limit and Pieces this time around, but Method will have no involvement with the event. Method will host the Race to World First event at a new location, and we are very excited to share all the details with you about this in an upcoming announcement. The future of the Race to World First. So, what do you think about this so far?
Well, I mean, what am I supposed to take from this? That Red Bull's a bad company and I shouldn't watch their event when the next World First race comes around?
I think I think that really the only mistake Red Bull made here, right? I like based off of this, what I'm reading, is trying to get them to put it on Red Bull's stream. I think that's stupid. Making sure they have like ownership of it and everything like that, I think is counterproductive. It's a waste of their time and money, and it's not going to help them in the long run. Imagine this. Imagine if you host somebody with 100,000 viewers. It's not like they're going to have 100,000 viewers the next stream around. The only reason that they're forcing this and pushing this so much is because they don't understand viewer behavior. It's because nobody at Red Bull probably streams. Or if they do, they have like 15 viewers and they don't understand how it works. It's just stupid. I don't know what they're thinking. Like, and they need to sit down. Like, they should sit down and talk with people that stream, like, understand how viewers make decisions, what they do, and figure out how to fucking do this better. Because here's the thing. Nobody wants this to happen. Like, this is worse for everyone. Because now there's a bunch of drama. Now Red Bull can't get along with Method because they didn't want to put it on Red Bull's stream. Red Bull's trying to go behind our back and create a second event. And everything is worse off because Red Bull has this goal that's stupid. It's a mistake. And yeah, Red Bull and Asmongolds and Red Bull confirmed. I wish they would talk to me. Red Bull, talk to me.
Well,
like,
speaking of getting sponsored, you just got $100.
What? Wow! Just a second. I'm gonna read that actually. Just a minute. Oh, it's not loading. Okay, give me a minute. Yeah, Night Itchy Ryo, I think it's $100. I appreciate that. Boycott Red Bull's event on Twitch. Support the members of the WoW community who've been doing this for years. Well, the thing is that, like, the other people that are doing this with Red Bull have also been doing it for years. It's not like Limit and Pieces don't deserve our support as well, right? I mean, who's to say that they do? But I do think that Method, I don't know. I mean, like, here's the thing, right? Is that this is a business decision. And the problem with making something like this that's a business decision is that the business decision is in the face of a front-facing company that's based off of its interactions and its relationship that it has with the community. So whenever you make a decision that's business-related or business-focused at the expense of your involvement or relationship with the community, you're effectively making a brand withdrawal. And it's effectively the exact same argument that I was making before about why Blizzard is making a mistake by making store mounts because they're diminishing their brand value. So yes, obviously Red Bull is doing something that is good. Obviously this is like good for them as a company, but is this good for them in the long term? I don't know, because I can guarantee you there are going to be thousands of people that read this and they think to themselves, fuck Red Bull.
Dude,
like,
what is S-Fan gonna do? Because he's a part of Method and he likes Red Bull.
No, he likes Red
Bull.
Bull.
And he drinks Red Bull on stream.
It's Red Bull. It's
whatever. No, but really though, it's whatever. You know that's not true. You're just memeing. What's he gonna do?
Probably do the same thing. I mean, like,
he's gonna have to completely disassociate with Red Bull at all. He's not going to be able to drink Red Bull on stream. He's not going to be able to say, man, I love Red Bull. He can't do any of that now because of this falling out that just occurred. You ever think of that?
Honestly, like, for what I know, like, I don't think that they're going to have any sort of, like, he's not gonna have to do anything. Like, nothing's gonna change. Like, that's...
True. Yeah. That's
Nothing's
true.
going to change. I mean, like,
That's
you can't just tell somebody who's a content creator for, like, years that has, like, a huge audience that, yeah, you have to decide, you have to stop using this product because it interferes with a dispute that we had on, with, like, a contract, right? I mean, that's insane. Okay, just a second.
Another 100!
Hey! Just a second. Thank you, Itchin. Thank you, Mayman. Nation. Then Limit Pieces and Method should talk it out to make an event, and give Red Bull the X. Red Bull isn't the only sponsor out there. Listen, I mean, they're not gonna do that because they see money in it. Like, that's why. See, the thing is that, like, a lot of these companies, like, I do believe that, like, yeah, a lot of them probably should do a better job at being able to do this, but, like, one thing that Red Bull has is money. Red Bull can do money.
Yes.
And, like, why do you think these companies, these guilds are doing it? It's because they're getting money for it. Do you think Red Bull is just doing this for these guilds just as a charity event? Do you think that people from Limited Pieces aren't going to get paid for this potential event? Of course not. Of course they're going to get paid. And that's why they're doing it. It's because maybe selling old deer raids and BOD raids isn't paying the bills for them anymore. And they've got to actually sit down and make some fucking money. Right? And I would say, honestly, this is better than selling runs, but, I mean, who knows if that's going to stop. Red Bull has a Formula 1 team. They spend more on breaks for a season than all of esports. Honestly, bro, you're probably right. That being said, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a loss for the whole community because Red Bull has such a misguided promotional strategy. It's so misguided. Derry just said Red Bull never paid Method a penny.
What? Then why the fuck would you partner with them? If it's about money, if it's a business decision, why'd you partner with them? What the fuck was the point the whole time then?
What is this, dude? What is this, dude? Let me say it louder for the people in the back. Method was never paid a penny by Red Bull. This is beyond outrageous. No, it's not, Victoria.
Yeah, Victoria.
What do you mean, Victoria? It's beyond outrageous. They had a contractual agreement that they both agreed to. Now, this is assuming that Method didn't like, oh yeah, we're gonna pay you 100 grand. And then Method's like, where's the money? They're like, what do you mean, dude?
What are you talking about, dude?
What money, bro? What money thing, bro? You know, no.
$50.
This is a contractual agreement that came together, that was reached by two different parties. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, they agreed to that. It's not lost. Red Bull sponsor to increase their venue, utilizing Method's reach, taking over that reach and thinking it'll actually work is bullshit. Red Bull is a scummy company that risks lives. I don't know about that, man. They said, oh,
It risks lives.
yeah, give me a fucking break, dude. They call sponsors with free Red Bull marketing. Yeah, I don't understand. Why did they take the... I don't know. I mean, you'd have to talk to, like, Sko and, you know, Derry and them and figure out, like, why this was a good deal. But whenever I see that, you know, they branded this thing with an entirely a Red Bull thing, and then it ended up not happening. So what did they really gain from the organization from having all of the players together? I think that they jumped the gun on that, personally, and here's why. Basically, and I don't know, maybe I'm just backseat quarterbacking here, okay? But it seems to me like it probably would have been a safer decision for them to do it remotely on the first race and not involve a sponsor. Because that means that they would have more to sell and they'd have a higher, like a higher sale value of doing that, right? And they would come into it independently rather than being supported by somebody else. Like that's, you know, that's just what I thought. So like, for example, like whenever we did our first tournament, we didn't have any sponsors. The prize money, I put that money up myself. I paid for that. And why is that? Because that means that now we have much more negotiating power if we want to sell the tournament to somebody later on, right? Like, and Tally, you're right. No, actually, again, hearts up, you know, hearts in the chat, hammers up. That's what I was about to say. Hammers up to Tally for contributing too. And
I like that. Hearts up, dude.
Hearts up.
Hearts up in the chat. Yeah, hearts up in the chat.
All right. Okay. It's not that bad. So yeah, I mean, like, I'd have to look at, like, the individual contract and, like, you know, it's like, I'm assuming they're telling the truth here, right? I don't think that they would make I mean, this is obviously a coordinated social media effort by Method to talk about this issue. So it seems like they would not make a coordinated social media effort to lie about a contract that they had with Red Bull. I'm going to rule that out. Now, it could happen, but I doubt it very strongly. Let's see here. Red Bull Scamas? No, we don't really know about that. Say what?
What else did he say in his post? What
okay,
else did,
well, let's go back and we will take a look at the post, okay? We got a little bit derailed there. Aren't you the leader of Method? No, I'm not. You should have companies sponsor your transmog contests and everything.
Ooh. Can I
what?
Here's a little insider tip, okay? If you are looking to get sponsored by someone that understands internet culture and Twitch stuff and shit like that, it's Wendy's. It's Wendy's. Not a lot
That's
of
true.
people know that. It's Wendy's. You should get in contact with them.
There's actually something I've been planning on doing, sponsoring, but I'm going to be probably sponsoring this with my own money. I'm not sure really if we're going to take it to the next level. There's basically 2 stages of this, and I can't talk about the second stage right now, but the first stage is I'm going to commission somebody that I have in mind to actually create art for people that win the transmog competitions in the, in the event, and then maybe do it for either the top 3 or just the top person that wins the tournament. Right, and I'm going to commission that and then have it done for those people, right? So we can, you know, build up the community and everything like that. And it's not really a whole lot of money, and it's like something that I think would be really special and it would make things more exciting. Why don't you become a sponsor instead? Because you need to have a product that you're selling in order to sponsor somebody else. Like, what product am I selling? There's only so far, you know, like, perceived clout can get you. Anyway, let me go back to this, okay? Would stock options in Red Bull count as payment? Absolutely. Yeah, I would consider that payment. Is it payment or consideration? I don't know. You'd have to ask a lawyer. But it's absolutely some sort of compensation. Yeah, I would say so. Sell your bathwater. That's a good idea. Here's 100 towards the next tournament. If you want to fatten up that pot some more, let me know. Thank you very much, Nice, and I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Listen, like, if you're a sponsor and you want to be featured in our next tournament, let me know.
Please.
And we'll talk.
We'll do anything.
Almost. Right? I mean, like, what if the next tournament that we did, we got enough sponsors to where we could have a $20,000 pot?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we could do that. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, and that's... See, like, the meetings that I've been having, like, you know, whenever I tell you guys I'm very busy... I got 252 whenever Red Bull got sued, saying that they'll give you wings. Ready the pitchforks, boys. Yeah, I don't know about that, dude. I think that was stupid, but, you know, it is what it is. Have you tried Dark Berry Dr. Pepper? It's absolutely amazing. So is Vanilla Float. I only have the originals, man. I got timed out for 2 months because of Ocean Man song Copy Pasta. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Mini disc. Let me just look right now, okay? I really don't want to fuck with somebody's logs right now, but, we'll go ahead and I'll look at you just to make sure that that's not anything bad. Yeah, you spammed it, let's say, like 10 times. That's a little bit too much, man. Okay, let's go. Oh, you're so annoying.
What?
Like, you're such an annoying person. Like, look at this here. Just a second. It's all like copy pasta. And then complaining about Gotchi. And then you're mad about Sean Paul. Fuck you, idiot. Sean Paul's a god. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, yeah, maybe because, like, whenever Temperature came out, you were 3 years old, and you didn't understand it, and then you're spamming the same shit, trying to get copy pastas going, and you've been watching my stream for a year? Making comments about viewers. Oh my god. Let's see. Where's the rest of these? Let me see if Ant-Man was actually really awesome in Endgame. Didn't he crawl up Thanos' ass? I mean...
Dude, spoilers!
Look, dude, it's too bad, man. Is this stream dying? Asmon's stream is dying. Thank God you're
Well.
banned. You're so fucking annoying. Get the fuck out of here. Go be somebody else's viewer. Okay? You're so fucking annoying. It's embarrassing. Okay, I'm done looking at that. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make, I don't like you. Okay, so let's see. Did you say Prime? No, about that. Okay, no, it's just like you have to build.
Okay, let's get back on track.
Okay, all right. Which track?
The track where you read the rest goes post.
Okay. Let's go back to that. Method way. All right, let's see. There's nothing else that I really said about that. Let's see. Future of the Race the World First. Race the World First exists of 14 years company run initiative without direct involvement from Blizzard or third-party corporations. We reject the prospect of a third-party corporation taking this competition away from the community now that the Race the World First live streams have shown that there's a huge public interest and commercial viability.
Good.
I have no problem with third parties being involved. We want third parties to be involved. Why not? It helps the players make money. They don't have to make sale carries. It allows more people to be part of it. It makes it more legitimate, so then you can have like more formal tournaments and you can actually allow those players to fully show what they can have. It develops a scene. It creates interest in the game. It creates promotion for the game through like organic engagement and viewership. There's 1,000 reasons.
That's all true. However, the more you involve corporations and money into something that started out as more of a homemade
I agree
kind of
with
thing,
you.
It's exactly how you get shit like what happened to Twitch. You know what I mean? And less user freedom and shit like that.
Rules. Yeah, basically rules. I only can counter that by saying all of the rules that third parties would give you, Twitch already has.
Well, that was just an example. I'm talking about, like, I don't know, deals that you make with these businesses and shit like that, and you have to shill their materials and goods and shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really care a whole lot about that.
It comes with downsides.
Yeah, of course it does. I mean, like, and nothing is, like, completely perfect, right? There's equivalent exchange with everything, but the point is that, or some sort of exchange with everything, but I think the positives outweigh the negatives. Yeah, I mean, shilling some sort of drink, or an energy drink, or, I don't know, a vacuum cleaner, or some sort of bullshit, it doesn't matter, and I think it can be funny. And it's like every other sport has that. If people want to make esports legitimate and, you know, like, try to take it to the next level, that's what they have to do. And I think there's a lot of people out there who don't want to take it to the next level. They want it to be that community, organic thing that never leaves, you know, their bedroom. And I can respect that. I absolutely can respect that. But there's a lot of other people that want to be able to do this, and they want to be able to make money at it. Because, I mean, not everybody is fortunate enough to have a mom that pays for everything, or, you know, a job or whatever, and I understand that, right? I get it. I also don't think that companies or any player has, like, I don't think Blizzard or any these players are not owed a salary. They're not owed a salary for playing WoW. That's ridiculous. No one is. But I do think some commercial viability and commercial, I guess not interference, but relationships would actually be better overall for the community. I would. A game shouldn't be your job. According to who? You?
Blown the fuck out.
Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I mean, yeah, according to who? His entertainer is his job. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not about playing the game. It's about entertaining people while you're playing the game. It's not. It's like, it's not that simple. Anyway, I don't want to keep getting off into these tangents. The point that I'm trying to make is I'm completely okay with third parties being involved, so long as that it doesn't sanitize the event to a point where it's not an organic community event anymore. And I also don't like it whenever it kind of it becomes overbearing. Right? I can get that, yes, obviously Redbull or whatever is sponsoring an event, but if you're shilling it every 5 seconds, I do think that that takes away from the enjoyment of the event from the audience, right? Basically, spending my Amazon buying Twitch is bad. I didn't say it was bad. Nobody said it was bad. Okay, let's go over here. Imagine winning a keyboard if you win a DPS contest. As I said, Cliff, I have a lot of plans, okay? And these are things that, you know, we'll see what happens, okay? Let's go back to the rest of this, okay?
I want to finish this and go back to...
Yeah, right.
Okay?
The Race to the World First is
running out of
uniquely
time.
positioned that it requires limited external involvement. The competition can be considered similar to the concept of games done quick. It's a race through PvE content, effectively PvE esports. If we consider how differently a standard esports tournament is run, for example, a CSGO tournament, it requires the tournament organizer to create and enforce a rule set, create brackets, and administer the referee, each match, and so on. The Race to the World First is unique that it requires none of that. You're actually right. Like, this is actually completely true. You don't need a governing body for the Race to World First. You just simply need it to exist. Like, that's it. That's actually very, very true, what he's saying. Allowing a third-party corporation to take ownership of the Race to World First is conflicting with the interests of the guilds that compete in the race. Okay, this is going to be a hard sell. I don't know if I'm sold on this yet. The goal of a third-party corporation is to promote their brand as much as possible. Well, yeah, but for money. Like, okay, let's keep going. Less incentive to bring on other sponsors as it dilutes the brand exposure. This is very, very true. Very, very true. Run the event at the lowest cost possible, while also owning, running the event at the lowest cost possible is not necessarily bad, but generally I can see why he's trying to say that. I can see the point that he's trying to make. While also owning the run of the show and other aspects as well, branding, marketing, sales events, etc., surrounding the show, which severely limits the guild's oversight and return from the event. The guilds become powerless and restricted in terms of the event itself, and the exposure they get, and the revenue generated from the event and other events. This all has a direct impact on how the long-term rating scene develops from here on out. So, you say that's for money, but Redbull didn't pay Method a penny. I don't understand that. Like, I genuinely don't understand, like, what did Method think they were going to get out of it by involving Redbull? I don't know. Let me look at this again, okay? So, I misread this first sentence here. Allowing a third-party corporation to take ownership of the World First Race. I don't think them owning the World First Race, it might not be good. Absolutely. I think that could be completely bad. I'm not saying that it would be, but I think that having sponsors and corporations involved, there's like two different things, right? Being involved versus owning it. I think owning it could be bad, and being involved is almost necessarily always good. Okay, that's the point that I'm trying to make. Okay, let me go with the rest of these. It should be just like NASCAR. Yeah, okay, let me go with the rest of this. Okay. The guilds become powerless and restricted in terms of the event itself, the exposure they get, the revenue generated from the event, and other elements. All of this has had a direct impact on how long-term rating scene develops from here on out. Okay. Yeah, a notorious problem has been sustainability of being a top rater. The majority of guilds that have achieved World First are either disbanded or have stopped competing, including guilds such as Death and Taxes, Nihilum, Incendia, Blood Legion, and Paragon. Seeking to achieve a World First requires an immense amount of dedication, but yields no tangible reward if you are successful. We live in a time of top esports competitions rewarding millions in prize money and 6 to 7 figures of annual pro player salaries. Most top raters on the other end have to take vacation from their full-time jobs to compete in the World First Race. And this is okay. Like, Blizzard doesn't owe them a salary for competing in the World First Race. There's no commandment written by God that says that people that compete in the World First Race should expect to be able to do that and be able to make a profit off of it or be able to do it freely. There's nothing that ever said that. It's completely players came up with this. This is a completely organic thing. He's just stating that though. No, I understand that. Yeah, it's just sustained to be. It is a problem, but I don't think this is a problem that... You know how you solve this problem? Is you have sponsors for the event. That's how you solve the problem. That's the only way you can do it. And even then, you probably wouldn't even be able to because of how... Like, you have to sponsor the event, and there's like 25 people you have to pay. So you're cutting the amount of money that people are making by so many different ways. I don't know if it would ever be worth it. But let's look at the rest of this, okay? The past 2 Race to World First events have achieved numbers similar to CSGO major tournaments for multiple weekends of the LCS. These events are massive, and their value should be realized by the guilds involved.
That's true. I think people...
How did the other guilds besides Method do?
What do you mean? Oh,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it, like, not well? Probably. 2K views. Well, we can look, right? Let me go ahead and let's take a look. Just give me 1 second. Let me pull up, some analytics here. Pull up Twinge, and I'll see if I can find the analytics here. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so let's see. Oh, it's me. Look at that. Alright, so limit maximum. I think that's obviously one of the guy. Well, let's see how their event did last time. So obviously, when did Crucible come out and BOD? Fuck, this website's so bad. This is actually the worst website in the entire world. No, it is. It's worse than Neopets. Okay, so let's see right here. April 22nd, 23rd. It seems like it's somewhere around here, right? Somewhere around in April? They didn't stream? Okay, well, we'll look at that. Neopets, please? Yeah, I'm serious. So it's somewhere... Limit didn't stream. Okay, well, who can we look at? THD Lock? Let's look at THD Lock and see what their, what do you call it? What their retention was. Okay, staff front. No, it's okay. Alright, so we'll go all the way up here. This is obviously what it's going to be. So this is somewhere around then. Okay, so we'll look at right here. So this is, I think, whenever the first... When was the first day they did this? It's April? Somewhere around here? So it's only like 3 or 2,000 viewers. I think one of the big reasons why... Method's event did so well and blew all of the... He restreamed Josh. Okay, well, I can't look at Josh because Josh is banned. Let's see, did you do a Scythe run this week? No, we actually should do that. I was actually just parking myself outside of Borealis, hoping that people would come up to me and trade me gold. But it hasn't really been happening. I'm pretty upset about it. Let me go back over to the, yeah, I'll go over to Stormwind, and let me see if I can beg for some gold over there. Josh is banned. Yeah, Gio, they banned him. He didn't say why. I mean, I'm sure it's like an internal thing. But, yeah, he didn't say why they banned him. Like, people linked a bunch of clips of things that it could have been the reason why he got banned, but nobody really knows. He didn't actually formally say. Okay, just a second here. Everyone knows why? Oh, not really. I mean, it could be a lot of reasons. Just because you see something that's ban-worthy doesn't necessarily mean that's why he got banned. The point that I'm making here, like, who gained the most out of the World First races? Besides Red Bull. Who gained the most? Josh did. Those streams put him on the map. They did. He was getting like 300-400 viewers. After that, he was getting 3,000-4,000 viewers. Right? It literally doubled. It multiplied his viewers by 10. Right? Sko did not retain the viewership. Josh retained the viewership. Josh was the only person who retained viewership in the same way. Josh was the main person that got the most out of the these events, right? And Josh got banned. You win some, you lose some, right? That's the way it goes. Let me look at the rest of these here, okay? Sorry, I did miss a lot of this. Okay, Shape Your Head, bro. Thank you very much. Tips out there, $5. Appreciate that. I don't know if that actually is you, Tips. If it is, thank you. I appreciate it. If it's not, thank you. I appreciate it. The issue with this is the end game. Large corporations intervening in community events forces out smaller independent event providers and forces and results in diminished event quality as game developers prefer working with larger companies with deeper pockets. I think it's actually more of a liability thing rather than them just working with the companies because they have more money, personally. Will you be reading some apps today live on stream? I don't know, but I'm not explicitly planning on it. No need for third party. Why don't Blizzard do the method that every competitive game does? Something like a battle pass, partially community funded, even enhances in game, where players get to do tons of stuff all the time. They start adding a toy and shop. Yeah, I know. They need to do a better job for that. I love your stream. It's helped me get through so many years of struggling and of agoraphobia and panic attacks. Thanks for your passion and love for the game and WoW and community. US. That's right, because you don't have to look at a person, you look at a wizard. Thanks for thanks for the $20. Appreciate that, man. So here's basic. Problem with it is it prevents the participation of any guild sponsored by Red Bull's competitors. Yeah, no, you're right about that. You're definitely right. Let's see. Channel stats of Josh, Sko, and Method for the first race. I can't look at that. Now I'm talking about retention, and not necessarily just viewership in the event itself. Because obviously Josh did really, really well with the Crucible event, but if you looked at like his viewership in the Crucible event, and you compared it to the overall viewership of the world first race for BOD, it was much lower. Even though Josh was doing amazing. Because everything was just consolidated around him. So the point that I'm making, Josh has 0 viewers? Well, yeah, because he can't stream because he's banned. But the point is that a lot of these other guilds did not have the same level of viewership that Method did. Method had a massive amount of viewership. Anyway, and I think there are a number of reasons for that. You know, it's an esports organization, you know, like they were the world first guild, etc. Okay, let me go back to the actual point here. Sorry guys, we keep derailing. Okay. Method is in the early stages of communicating with other top guilds on a collective agreement that will have the Race the World First remain in the hands of the community. It's going to be really hard to convince people not to take money. Let me say that. An agreement that will provide exploitation of the guilds. The agreement in broad strokes. The guild elect a commissioner to act... Wait. Are they seizing the means to create a world first race?
No. They better not.
Okay, 10,000. Thank you, Budded. I really appreciate the 10,000 gold. Guys, just keep trading me more gold, okay? Just if you have some extra money, might as well come over here and give it to me. Yeah, seize the memes of production. And no, I mean, this is what you have to do, right? I don't know. I mean, well, let's see what the rest of this is going to be. The guilds elect a commissioner acting on their behalf. The commissioner will assume the role of executive director for Race for World First events. I'm sure this is at least partially self-serving because Method is, I'm assuming, going to be the commissioner, right? I mean, or at least like the de facto person to do it because they're the top guild and they have the most experience, right? So this does very, very... No, here's the thing. Meet the new boss. Same as the old boss. Okay? Like, there's always going to be something like this happening. Okay? Divide and conquer, 200 IQ. No, here's what I'm saying. What if they elect me? That's right. That's actually a good idea. They should elect me. Animal Farm? Well, yeah, I mean, you could say Animal Farm or, like, basically, you don't even need to go into, like, metaphors or anything. I mean, you've had the same thing happen, right? You have people that are, they want to be part of a union, and then they have to pay union dues, then the union becomes draconian, and then they basically run into the same problems, or a different set of problems that they did whenever they were dealing directly with the company that they were working for, right? So which one is always better? It just depends, right? The more democratic control that communities like this have, usually the better off they are. Usually. Anyway, let me go over here. The commissioner and the guilds choose a production company and a venue which will be engaged on a contractor basis. The commissioner, on behalf of the guilds, will oversee the creation and execution of the Race the World First broadcast to ensure the event reflects the competitive nature of the race and the passion of the raiding guilds. Sponsorships of the Race the World First events will be brought in by the guilds and by external agents. All revenue will be distributed in a fair manner, which will be agreed upon between the guilds. Blizzard, as creator and IP owner of World of Warcraft, will hopefully continue to provide support to what has always made World of Warcraft special, its community. We would be keen to work directly with Blizzard and with the above aforementioned points in mind. The agreement ensures that the Race to World First event will be the best it can be because it's in the hands of the guilds and the raiders, who have passion and dedication for the competition. The guilds and raiders are not taken advantage of by external for-profit companies that have no interest in the Race to World First other than its commercial exploitation. The long-term sustainability of the raiding scene is secured. What do you think about this, McConnell?
Huh? I was talking to someone.
Basically, they're like the commissioner thing, and then they're going to, sponsorships are going to be distributed in a fair manner, and then they want Blizzard to work with them, and they want to keep it in the hands of the raiders, and the guilds and raiders are not taken advantage of by external for-profit companies that have no interest in the race to world first, other than its commercial exploitation.
Yeah, good fucking luck with that.
True. Let's see.
Hey, what's going on YouTube?
This is good. What is this here? This is only about money.
Hey, what's...
Well, here's one thing that you have to understand. Is that every conflict, every dispute, every issue is about power. And money is power. The more money you have, the more things that you can do. So yeah, you're right. I mean, ultimately, everything is a power struggle. Everything in the entire world is always a power struggle. Money talks? Yeah, exactly. What about Blizzard adding guild-branded microtransactions? I think the community would not like that, and I don't think that's a good idea for Blizzard to do. I hope they do not do that. 100 gold? Yeah, hopefully we get we get more like 1 million gold, or, 5 million gold, 10 million gold, somewhere around there. But, it's the way it goes. Is that what killed the game? Everything for Raiders? Screw that. I think that you're misinterpreting what's being said. Okay, here. So let's see what else this is here. Can money stop malding? Oh, it did for Elon Musk, but he's a billionaire, so I don't really know if that's a good idea, for me to use that as an analysis. Okay, let's see here. Conflict brings more power than money ever could do. It depends on what happens and who's there to pick up the pieces. But here's basically what I think that they're trying to do, right? Method's trying to position themselves to be Redbull. Right? I mean, like, they're effectively, no. Am I wrong here? Wait, they basically, here's the thing, right? No, at least a better Redbull. They're making a Raiders Union. They're making a Raiders Union in the pretense of them being the largest, most powerful, most progressed, and most organized, and guild with the biggest organization with the biggest resources possible. How is the commissioner and all of this stuff right here, how is the executive leadership for this supposed, agreement here not going to be comprised primarily of people on Method making the decisions? They have the most power, they have the most resources going into the agreement. It would be de facto their leadership. Right? I mean...
Well, here's the thing.
Listen, here's something that I used to always do. Remember what I would say if I ever wanted to do something against people? I would put it to a vote. Because people would always vote against their self-interest. Always be very careful whenever you have people talking about things and they think that they are, they're talking about giving the power back to the people. Giving the power back to the people. Well, let's give the power back to the people. Who executes the power of the people?
Ooh. Shit.
Method's role in the race to world first. And this right here is their resume for rationalizing themselves being in charge of this part here. So let me read it. I can already tell. Method was created 14 years ago in 2005, and we've since then always been a competitor in the race to world first. Some of you might remember our first significant boss kills, such as Lady Vosh, world second, world first legit, and it killed Jaden world second in the Burning Crusade. If you look back to the last few expansions, in particular, going back to Mists of Pandaria in 2012, Method has been world first on 12 of the 16 significant in-game bosses. Over time, Method has increased its efforts to develop the race to world first beyond competing in a form of a 24/7 live report and a full raid history compilation, in a goal to preserve the world first raid achievements. However, Method's most impactful action was the live streaming of the world first progression in Uldir in 2018 that brought back excitement to the race to world first at a time where many were skeptical about the future of hardcore raiding. Yeah, that's true. Given Method's position in the raiding community and our passion for race to world first, we want to ensure in any way that we can in any way that we can the long-term sustainability of the race world first. So let's see what these links here are, okay? Let Blizzard stream the event. The Blizzard doesn't want to. Vanilla, Onyxia's Lair, Molten Core. This Guild Ascent, I think I talked about this before. Ascent were the ones that cucked us out of Realm First in Wrath. Yeah, they were on Thrall server. This is actually really nice. Like, regardless of like what you think about Method, them doing this is really, really great. I like it a lot. Looks fucking awesome. Is this a do Method? It's like its own deck? Well, no, I'm just saying, like, this is really, really nice. I mean, I'll always give credit where credit is due. Every single time, because that's what matters. It's really hard, let's see here. Okay, just a second. Let me look at the rest of this. Alright. Link it? I'll link it in a minute, okay? Just give me 1 second. Okay, the website is the same shell as Wowhead. Well, they might have had the same people develop it, and why not? I mean, Wowhead's a great website, and this is the same game. Why not make it the same? I don't see that being a problem. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, this is really, really well done. I mean, McConnell, you can agree on that, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this is well done. This is great. I like it a lot. It's amazing. That being said, what do you guys think about this? Do you think Kungan's gonna play Classic? Yeah, I think so. Let's see. What's the rest of this? What do you guys think? Let's see. Shrug, it's bad. Wait, Tips Out thinks that it's bad. Really? Tips, why do you think it's bad, man? Yeah, well, what is it? Yes? Let's see, I'd love to talk about it.
Let me bring him in.
Fuck it, yeah, bring him in. Yeah, bring him in. Why not? I think Method's, yeah, well, here's the thing, right, is that I feel like Method, like, I do think that Method does have good intentions in some ways. But Method also, in the same way that Redbull is a for-profit company, so is Method. Like, Method's trying to make money. They're an organization, too. Like, these both exist in capitalistic systems. Right? Method is not a charity. They're going to do what's best for them. And I think that's something that you always have to keep in mind whenever you're talking about giving the power back to the people and everything like that. That also being said, it would be very easy to sell the idea that it is in their best interest to continue to develop and nurture the hardcore raiding community and scene because that's good for them. Like, it's good for them. It's the same reason why I try to develop other streamers and people in the WoW section too, because I think that's good. And we look at these right here. I mean, they've obviously put a lot of work into this. I mean, Method, like, the Race to the World First is probably Method's flagship program, right? I mean, let's be real. Link the post, please. Yeah, let me go ahead and link it right here. Yeah, here's the post right here. Wouldn't they be paying themselves if they won? No, because that's only assuming that there is a cash prize for winning. So if the race itself is sponsored, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a, what do you call it? You have to have a prize pool for the winner. I actually don't think they should have a prize pool for the winner. I don't think that's a good idea. Eternal Palace World First is going to be awesome. Well, this is great, right? Because not only do you have guilds competing against each other, but you also have companies. Like, this is exciting. It adds a certain level of, like, drama in these events is always good for the numbers. And that's really what matters at the end of the day, are the numbers. That's how you make sales. That's everything like that. The numbers are the only thing at the end of the day. Whenever you turn off your computer, the numbers are what matters. That's what people make decisions on, is fucking numbers. If anyone is titled to the world first in people's minds, I think it's Method. Personally, I don't like Method. Well, that's fine. But yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, Method has developed. They went out on a limb with this whole race to world first thing. Nobody knew how well it was going to go. It exceeded everyone's expectations. It was incredible. And I think that they absolutely do deserve a lot of respect for doing that.
He's here.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, Asmon? How you doing, man? What's up,
doing
McConnell?
Great, man. How about you?
Good, good.
So you think that it's bad?
I do
Okay,
actually, and I'm actually involved in this particular issue. So I guess I'll.
Can you say how?
Yeah. So the reason why I think this is bad is especially companies like Redbull. Like I agree with you in the sense that Method is a corporation and they're trying to secure their portion of the market share, and they definitely don't want to be forced out. So, you know, end game, things might be a little different. But the problem with bringing a third-party entity like Redbull is, number one, when you have a company like this that's this massive and this endemic to this scene, what usually happens is companies like this try to push for exclusivity rights to run community tournaments. And that is definitely the end game with Redbull. The reason why I know this is that Redbull contacted me about classic events and stuff like that after the previous tournament. And it's great. I don't know what I want to disclose and what I don't want to disclose about that. But the bottom line is, it seems pretty apparent, at least from my perspective, that the goal is to partner up with Redbull and Blizzard to create exclusive events, which means that all other community organizers and stuff like that would effectively be forced out, which is not good for anybody.
So they're trying to create
opinion.
a monopoly.
I believe so, yes. Now, again, this is alleged and stuff like that, but I think that's what's happening. And, you know, and ultimately, monopolies obviously mean diminished quality. And I'll give you an example of how it means diminished quality.
Every ISP.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
specific to this event, Red Bull contacted me to come out to their World First event. And I haven't played BFA since August of last year. I have no idea what's going on in the rating scene. I've casted a couple of events in the classic scene, but by no means am I even remotely qualified to have any kind of like I can't host a world first race, dude. I don't know how to play the game, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, and I told them that. I said, are you sure? Like, am I really, you know, I told them, I'm like, look, I haven't played the game in like a year. I mean, I can come out and do it. And they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. You know, everything's going to be fine. And I was just completely shocked. And the amount of money they were throwing at me to come out to this event was absurd. And ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to.
And that's all private, right? I mean, I'm just assuming that's all private.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what to disclose and what not to disclose.
I don't think
sure.
no one with any sense would.
Yeah, thank you, man. But at the end of the day, again, this is part of the diminished quality. These corporations are reaching out to people who, you know, admittedly don't know very much about, you know, this particular game. And this happens across a lot of other scenes because they just don't know what's going on. Whereas Method and let's say this commission that they set up, and full disclosure, I literally just signed with Method. I was going to announce that like later on stream or whatever, but I figure it's probably better to put that out there. I guess it's just to be, you know, transparent, dude.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations, man. Congratulations. That's great.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Congrats.
But no, thank you, man. Like part of it was kind of hearing them out and their vision for like community-based tournaments and stuff like that. But that's a whole other discussion. But basically, like, you know, you bring in these third-party guys like Red Bull or these large conglomerates. They push for exclusivity rights. They take over the scene, and then the scene completely dies out because obviously, number one, you have no parity, you have no diversity in events. Number two, you have a tremendous amount of censorship. Like your tournament the other day was amazing. It was hilarious.
Thank you, man.
50%, maybe more, of what was said and done during that tournament would not happen.
So everything I said. Basically,
basically, it would not be allowed if like a major corporation like that took over.
See, told you.
And so like with Method, they're setting up this commission. I don't know the details or anything like that. I haven't spoken to them about this specific thing. But from what it sounds like, at least there's representation. And I'm sure these guilds will hire lawyers for themselves to kind of make sure this collective bargaining agreement at least is in their favor. They're allowed to exit whenever they want to. So there will always be some kind of diversity. If the guilds don't like it, hopefully they can pick up and leave, host their own event. That's fine. It's great for the community to host as many of its events as it wants to. But once you bring in the giants, the big boys that can just force everyone out with one paycheck, that's when things become problematic.
I think that's probably your strongest argument, right? Is an argument for, like, basically the longevity of this. And it's like anybody who wants to do an event. Let's see. Are we having lag here? Let me make sure. Sorry, guys. I think we might have been getting DDoSed by Red Bull. Actually, I can't say that. We're not getting DDoSed by Red Bull. It's a joke. But yeah, no. Anyway, like the point that I'm making, right, is that I think this is a matter of self-preservation, and I think that the self-preservation argument that you're making is probably the strongest one in my mind. Right? Is that even if Method might have ulterior motives, the idea is that siding with someone that doesn't necessarily edge you out later on in the future, right, with like, you know, like potentially like exclusivity, etc., that could be really bad. And I think that would also be bad for the community in general. Because generally what happens, I feel like with monopolies, like what also happens with monopolies is they get lazy. Mm-hmm. So whenever you have the monopoly on basically the tournament rights for a game, it doesn't matter if your tournament's very good or not. Because if people are going to want to watch a tournament, they have to watch you. That's it. Get Scripe and a call. Who is Scripe with Method? I'm not 100% sure. I'm familiar with the name. I just don't know what the affiliation is.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear real quick.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just wanted to say, like, again, this is not like Red Bull. If you look at, you know, their perspective, they're not doing anything quote unquote wrong. It's the correct business move. They participated in an event. They saw how tremendous it could be. They have the capital to put on their own event. Like, honestly, if I was the head of Red Bull, I would probably do the exact same thing. But in terms of just like the community, just like us, gamers, players, WoW players, stuff like that, ultimately the viewing experience will be worse if you give such a large entity so much power in this scene over the smaller community-based tournaments. And I'm not going to lie, I've got a vested interest in this. I hosted a couple tournaments. Asmon, you're hosting tournaments. Rich wants to start a league. We want to start a league.
Us. Thank you, by the way. And I wish you good luck for tomorrow's. The first one was great.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And the freaking amazing tournament you guys put on. The production was insane. But, you know, personally for us, for example, what if, let's say, Red Bull or anybody else, I don't want to just vilify Red Bull. What if anybody comes in and says, you know, to Blizzard, okay, we want to start hosting events. Here's a contract. You know, we'll host all your events. We'll pay you this amount of money for a community license, and we'll have exclusivity rights. All of a sudden, you, me, Rich, S-Fan, Stay Safe, none of us can host events anymore.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm really kind of worried about is, like, as I said, self-preservation. Like, even, like, I do think that Method is trying to position themselves to have, like, not necessarily, like, executive control, but primary control over the way that the race to world first is being handled. And whether that's something that's earned or not isn't really something I want to get into too much. But the point is that obviously I do think this is self-serving for Method as well. Because this is something to keep in mind. Like, Method is doing this because this is what will help them the most, right? In the short run, and also, I believe, in the long run. The long run argument, I do think, is more, what's the word for it? It's more altruistic.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
But, yeah, sorry, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in real quick. Thanks for bringing me on and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't want to,
of course.
Bother you.
Yeah, and congratulations on the partnership, man. That's fucking amazing.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, dude.
Yeah, so...
Good luck to...
Go ahead.
I was going to say good luck to you guys and everything you do and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Good luck tomorrow, too.
Thanks, man. All right, see you guys later. See you, McConnell.
See you, dude.
Peace.
So... I might actually have something really juicy.
What?
Something really, really juicy.
What, dude? Holy shit, I'm excited.
It depends on if we can talk to the people from this organization or not.
Huh? What do you mean?
I'm trying to figure this out, okay, guys? Be very... Yeah, okay, so we can get Scripe in here and have him explain, if you want to do that. That's fine with me. Hey, good morning. Let's see. Asmongolds. No, it's not about that. I'm trying to see. Okay.
It's Wendy's? You didn't get Wendy's, did you?
No, it has to do actually with
Can you finish
just
your
one
sentence?
second. I'm trying to figure this out, okay? All right. So, are there any people in Limit who would be able to, like, give their own perspective? Because obviously we've talked to somebody, you know, Tips technically representing Method in a way, right? Or at least part of Method. And yeah, if there's somebody in Limit, we can maybe talk to them. Limit Max, I like Maximum a lot. I think he's very competent, and yeah, I'm not sure. THD or whatever. I mean, Masks is on vacation. Yeah, I would be too. Okay, alright. Okay, is Ironic on if you can? I'd love to, but we just need to figure out who it is, okay? I do apologize for the, you know, the setup here, guys, but we're just trying to make sure that we get the right answers and we get the right information. That'd be great, because Brain tips out on is a biased perspective. Yeah, I mean, obviously it is, but having bias. Preheated streaming right now, Officer Limit. I don't know really if he'd be wanting to talk then, right? Talk to Joe. I don't know about that. Scripe. Yeah, no, we can talk to Scripe too. I'd have no problem talking to him. Like if he wants to come into to chat, that'd be amazing. Get the webpage off. Well, I want to go ahead and show this a little bit more, right? And like just have this up so people know actually what we're discussing. I think that's kind of what makes sense, at least in my mind. Things are going on. Who am I bringing in? Scripe. Scripe. Watch the illegal memes playlist on YouTube. I don't know about that. Talk to Josh. Guys, we're not talking to Josh, man. Like, you guys want to talk to Josh? You're going to be talking to me on YouTube. Okay, you don't want to do that. So where's the juicy bit? How do I get in? You can... McConnell, can you set...
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, McConnell will set it up. Okay, who's this bald dude? Yeah. Okay. Have fun. Zip. Oh, you got your hat. Alright, good. Did you get everything else? Okay, cool. Oh, yeah. I didn't know what you were gonna leave it here or not. Okay, you got your phone, you got everything else. Alright. Have fun. See ya.
Goodbye, chat.
Bye. She says bye. They put hearts in chat. Really, they did. I didn't even tell them to do it. Alright, see ya. Okay, get message person. Well, yeah, I don't know about that, man. Okay, let's see. Bye. Yeah, alright. Is your... Okay, dude. Okay, dude. Just give me 1 second. Pause music, please. Yeah, we're trying to set everything up, okay? As soon as Scripe gets in here, we'll go ahead and we'll get his perspective on it. But I would really like to get a, Shut the fuck up, that's fine. We would really like to get, obviously, the perspective of somebody from Limit in here, too. Because, obviously, like, them and I don't know
I
anything...
messaged him.
Say what?
I messaged him.
Scripe?
Yeah.
On Twitch?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Scripe, you can respond to your Twitch DMs. That'd be ideal. Actually, you know what? While we wait for this, because people are... I don't know what happened, guys, but, like, nobody's trading me any fucking money. This is bullshit. So I'm just gonna go over and invite me over and see. Let's see if we can get a Rust Feather kill or two, and we'll get that done. Shut the fuck up, Koran, fucking idiot. Okay, give me 1 second. Can't see. No, it's fine. I mean, like, I'm gonna be AFK for the most of this. So just give me 1 second. We're trying to make sure that we get a fair and balanced perspective here, and we get everybody in here that should be in here. That's the point. Okay, let's go. War Stream Idiot. This is the war of the actual game. Like, this is the war of the people in the game, right? I think this is important, too. Like, obviously, if something comes up, I do that. I'm not saying that we're not...
Alright.
Okay.
Here you go. Have a good talk.
Alright.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, dude.
So,
What's up?
Not much. So there's a lot of shit going on, huh?
Yeah, I didn't actually expect it when I opened your stream. I just wanted to look what you're doing, and then suddenly you're talking about Method.
Yeah. Well, obviously,
Yeah.
Sco put out the announcement, and, you know, some other people in Method kind of echoed the sentiments and everything. One thing that I want to ask right now, like, why the fuck did you guys go with Redbull if they didn't pay you any money in Old Year?
Honestly, like, me personally, yeah, I'm doing the raid leading and everything. I'm managing the guild, but company-wise, I don't really get to see much. I don't even know what I would be able to say from the things that I do know.
Okay.
Because, like, you know, there's privacy stuff and shit like that.
Of course.
Sko was saying you could get him in if you want,
Okay.
and he can explain his point of view. Like, I like, he had to even, like, talk to lawyers and stuff to make that tweet post, you know?
Really?
Yeah. It's not that simple, so... like I'm scared what to say. Like I might say something and then I don't know.
He's
It's not good. Wait, I can link him to Discord, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Why not?
I wonder what he will say here as well.
Yeah, I'll be curious. I mean, why the fuck not? Let's do it.
Yeah, dude. Man, I was laying in bed.
Yeah?
You guys made me get to my PC.
I'm surprised
I
you were
didn't
laying in bed. I thought you had to farm AP.
Yeah. Oh, true.
How dare I? Yeah.
Yeah, dude, slacking off and it's a raid leader? Oh, man.
Dude, I was even outside today for like 2 hours, yeah?
Whoa.
Saw the sun since like 1.5 weeks.
Man, you guys are going casual after COS? Dude, that sucks.
Yeah, it was...
Yeah? Well, look, man, I actually, like, the way that I look at this is that it seems disappointing, at least from my perspective, right? And we'll talk about this whenever Sko gets in here. But my perspective is that it's really disappointing that this happened, period. Right? Because it seems to me like the main contention here is having the event on Red Bull's channel. Right? Outside of that, I think that people, you know, this is absolutely something that could be, okay. Can you, invites. Okay, I told Sko to message you, McConnell.
Okay.
But yeah, he did just message me. And so yeah, they're gonna be able to come on and talk about the event. Yeah, he's gonna be coming. Absolutely. We got raid in 2 weeks. Raid in 2 days, actually. We're getting very hard in war. Well, no, I mean, like, obviously there's a lot to do, okay? Yeah, so I just talked to him, and we're going to see if we can sort this out, okay? 1 second. Let me go ahead and double check. Okay. Sorry, I was reading something. Okay, we're good. You're the manager from Asmongold? Yes, I'm the manager of Asmongold. Method Joe? I don't know about that, dude. But here's the thing, right, is that the whole idea... By the way, can somebody invite me to a group to where I can kill Rustfeather? Because I'm trying to get this mount, man, and it's not really going too well right now. Play some Classic? Oh, you want me to go AFK and Ironforge over there instead of Ironforge over here? It's about the same thing. We're gonna stream. Your host Asmongold. Well, yeah. I mean, I can host. I can host events. I did the political podcast. So I was part of hosting that, right? I mean, I'd say it would go pretty well. In general. Oh, there it is. Mount God. Here we go.
Go kill him, dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna get them out. Do you collect mounts, or do people in Method not care about that kind of stuff?
Nah, not me. There are some people that care, actually.
I'm surprised. It seems like if you're like, I remember whenever I was like more serious about like raiding and everything, like never like Method level, but I was just like, you know, raiding occasionally, right? Or like more often. I never gave a shit about mounts, but as soon as I stopped doing that regularly, I was like, man, I want to collect all these mounts, dude. Like, I've been like so excited about this shit. I haven't gotten a single one, dude. It's annoying. Yeah, I mean, no, we're just waiting on Sko to get in here. McConnell, were you able to talk to him?
Boys, this is a momentous occasion right here.
Alright, don't hype it up too much, man. How's it going?
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, a lot, I guess.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's a big night.
So, basically, all right. Well, I asked Scrap about this. Why the fuck did you guys go with Red Bull if they weren't going to pay you for the Old Year event? Like, because I'm assuming that, like, it was in a contract for them not to pay you, right?
To be honest, it's a really long story. And a lot of it we can't really talk about publicly.
Okay.
I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to mention why. That could also be an issue.
Okay.
So there's a lot that we can't really say. To be honest, like that statement that you read on Twitter, I'm not even gonna lie to you. We probably have to rewrite that thing like 20 plus times before posting
good.
it.
I mean,
because
it's a big
there was
deal.
some stuff. Yeah, there's some stuff in there that had to be scrubbed or had to be reworded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a it's been a very stressful past month, to be honest. But yeah, it feels good to finally get it out there.
Well, we're at
tell
what
us
point?
tell us out the story at
Of
least,
course.
because obviously, you know, the main question we're getting in our streams these days is, "Oh, are you guys going to Red Bull again to do the next race to world first and whatnot?" Which is obviously not the case.
Well, what was the first time that you guys felt like, you know, the partnership might not be something that you'd want to continue?
Well, it started with obviously the Uldio event, right? This is back in September of last year. And basically I reached out to Red Bull at that point, Red Bull UK that is, and basically asked them to come on and support the event and also provide us with the venue for the Race to World First event, because we obviously want to do this in a live venue.
Right.
To make it a bit more special. Plus, we also wanted to, you know, hype up the event, make an event, and actually provide the guild with some extra compensation, because we needed to, obviously, this is the first time we've ever streamed Progress as a raiding guild after being a raiding guild for 14 years. We wanted to go a little bit of an extra mile in regards to compensating the guild for streaming the Progress in the first place, right?
Well, how are
So
you
by
planning
doing
on
so by creating so
how are they-
basically by
Okay, go ahead.
by creating a large event around the Race to World First, it was obviously easier for us to bring on, let's say, external partners. Like we brought on a few partners for that event, like Discord, for example, that did provide monetary compensation, of course, for coming on as a partner.
Okay, so you had other sponsors on top of that.
Yes.
Okay,
but,
that's what I was trying to get to. Okay.
Yes, there was no contract with Red Bull though.
So it wasn't like exclusive, because that was the main thing that I was concerned about. I was like, how are you going to be able to compensate people whenever you're not actually giving them money, right? Or because Red Bull wasn't paying them. So you had other sponsors on top of that.
Yes,
and that's how they were able to make money.
Obviously the first event that we did was for the numbers, it was severely undersold.
Yeah,
like we obviously did not expect the first event to achieve anywhere close to the numbers that it did. I think I can remember, for example, quoting Discord some numbers for the event that we suspected it might get, and then in the end, like actually collecting the stats and everything afterwards, the event actually did 10 times the predicted numbers that we were expecting. So you can imagine that these sponsorships we had for the Uldio event were not very significant. And we always thought that we could ramp them up quite significantly for the second event, which is, of course, BOD, because, like I said, the numbers really are impressive. Like, we're talking for the Uldio event 2 times the viewership hours of the entire Overwatch League playoffs in 2018. That includes the finals, the semifinals.
Why didn't you guys do the Crucible of Storms though? Like, because was that because of the deteriorating partnership with Red Bull, or was there another reason for that too?
You want to talk about the Crucible of Storms?
Yeah, because Josh was the only one that streamed, and like even you didn't stream.
That's not true. I was streaming for the first 7 or 8 days of Crucible of Storms. The problem with Crucible of Storms is that it is a 2-boss raid, right? So we, as a guild, actually expected this 2-boss raid to be finished within the space of 1 to 2 days, maybe 3 max. Our benchmark for that is obviously prior raids, like for example, Helia.
Yeah, TLE.
She was actually defeated by Friday. So we never expected this 2-boss raid to last very long. And to be honest, the general hype around this raid was not significant. That both on a community perspective, but also internally in the guild, people were not motivated for this raid at all. The general attitude in the raid was that they just wanted to kind of get it over with as fast as possible. I mean, I'm sure Scripe, if he's still on this call, can kind of echo that sentiment, but it was not really taken as a super serious raid for us, and we did indeed expect it to last so short.
Was that just like fatigue, basically?
That was very bad to put on an event, because now let me just talk about the events for a second, because this is actually important. This provides some context here. So obviously a big issue with the Race to World First events is that you don't know how long these events are going to last, right? You don't know how long they're going to go on for.
Yeah.
Now, generally, when it comes to a major raid tier like BOD or Uldio, or for example, the Eternal Palace that's coming up, we have a rough idea that this event probably is going to last at least, let's say, 8 days. Because if the event's tuned properly, generally what happens is you get to the last boss, then you get that extra clear of the reset for the extra gear, and then you're finally able to overcome that last hurdle that is the last boss. Normally by that time as well, Blizzard may have made some tuning.
Well, that's
mistakes.
what happened with Gahoon and also with Jaina, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I could tell you right now that we're expecting, the Eternal Palace to probably last, let's say, 8 to 9 days max, right? However, when it comes to the 2-boss raids, like I said, we really expected this to be something that was going to be a thing of a couple of days or so. And because it was so difficult to predict, going back to the events again, to put on an event on the scale of, let's say, the BOD event or the event we're doing for the Eternal Palace, these events are not cheap. The upfront cost of flying everyone out to location, the travel cost, hotels, the production team, everything like that, you're probably talking about normal upfront costs for like one of these events to be 25k.
Right.
You're then talking about each day of the event to be minimum 10k. And
Were you guys able to make the money back from BOD? Did you guys come out positive?
No. So let's, if you want to jump back to BOD again.
Really?
Basically, in the statement that I wrote, the biggest problem we had with BOD was we had the numbers from Uldia, so we had a tested case study. However, the biggest issue with BOD is we never actually knew what the final product was for the event until 2 weeks before the Mythic release. So this was 1 week before Heroic. Now, you guys, you can obviously imagine how that is trying to make sales against a product or an event that you have no idea what it actually is you're selling, right? Like
well,
we can't
being on Red Bull's channel, I think is the weirdest thing, right? And so that was like a really big point of contention with Red Bull, is they really wanted to have the event on their channel. Am I right
and
about
that's the reason. This is the Red Bull going on their channel was the main reason why this event was so delayed in getting finalized, because after Uldia, as I wrote again in the statement, it became a discussion with Red Bull that they basically wanted to move the event onto their channel, taking it off the Meta channel, of course. And that was obviously, like I wrote some of the reasons in my statement. It's why we couldn't do that. There's some other stuff as well, but like I said, I can only say so much. But basically, that was the main point of contention. They wanted it on their channel. We obviously had very good reasons for not wanting that to happen. And that's what caused the delay in terms of finalizing what the product was for BOD. And I can tell you that Christmas and that New Year period of going back and forth in terms of, trying to finalize the BOD event with Red Bull was extremely stressful. Like, it kept feeling as if we were achieving ground, then all of a sudden we weren't achieving ground. Like, there was like hope every now and then in terms of the way the conversation was developing. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of found ourselves in a really difficult situation where we'd invested so much time, energy into trying to work this solution out with Red Bull, because, we really did want to work with Red Bull. We held Red Bull in, as a brand. It's like a brand that you aspire to work with. It's a brand that most of you guys probably hold in very high esteem. It's like a brand you want to be associated with, right? So maybe that was 100%, by the way. I think that's definitely maybe some naivety on my part as well, because we have Sasha on this call as well. Sasha is one of the other guys in Method, and he at that point actually was telling me that no, we need to move away at this point. We need to do something else. And it was kind of my fault, I think, in that regard, where I was like, nah, I'm sure we can work something out with Red Bull, because there was always this premise the whole way along that there was going to be this partnership with Red Bull, like a Method Red Bull partnership that was going to lead to like the long-term future of these events and growing out the Race to the World first in the way that we imagined.
However, how did you imagine it?
Well, exactly like as I kind of wrote in my statement, the plan was to eventually grow the Race to the World. We actually wanted to do this for BOD already, to include other guilds and grow out the Race to the World first into a bigger concept. The problem is that we had no time again. Like we can't do anything with only knowing 2 weeks before the event again that's the situation. Like, we definitely should have cut ties after the Uldia event, shortly after the Uldia event, and shortly after realizing what Red Bull was really wanting to do internally. However, we kept obviously believing in the hope that there was another way around this problem, and we kind of just left it too late. Thought there was no other option for us to either do the event online, or take an absolute massive financial hit, or do the event obviously, or just trying to keep hoping that we were going to do the event with Red Bull. Did
they pay you guys for BOD?
No, there was no monetary compensation provided to Method for BOD.
Was there any other compensation that individual members that were there at the studio got?
No. The deal. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if I can talk about the deal. Can I talk about the deal, Sasha, on this one or not?
Well, there was no contract in place, so I think it's fine. If we have to be a little bit careful here what we say legally, like Scott said. But obviously, Red Bull sponsored the event, meaning they helped with the cost for the event, right?
Right.
What we're saying is they didn't directly compensate the players.
One second, by the way. I actually see people in chat typing. No, that's the lawyer. Yeah. That's actually. Go ahead, Sasha.
No, I'm actually not the lawyer. I'm just one of the. So Scott and I, we used to raid together, and I helped building up Method as an organization. So I'm just, you could say, co-owner of the organization Method.
Oh, okay, so what you're saying is that you probably won't say anything wrong.
Well, that's the thing, because that's why I'm saying we have to rewrite the statement so many times and whatnot. Because, I mean, let's just put it this way. I mean, even on this, because obviously Red Bull's such a big company, if you on the smallest thing, they can obviously
I mean, they have a huge amount of legal power,
so to speak. Yeah, so that's why I was a little bit skeptical, even if I should call in this call in the first place. But I do feel as if when I was listening to you tell the audience what your thoughts were on the statement, I did kind of feel like I didn't really agree with what a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah, I do want to get to that. Go ahead.
I will say that the main disagreement I have with you is that, just to be clear, we have no problem with third-party corporate sponsors coming in. The only thing that we're rejecting in this whole statement is that the third-party corporate entity owns ownership. The entire competition.
Yeah, we're in agree. I agree with you entirely there.
Yeah, I want to give you an example which might clarify the situation a little bit. Imagine something else. Imagine the NFL, right? We all know the NFL.
Okay.
Imagine it was called not the NFL, it was called Red Bull's football, right? Red Bull would own this entire competition. Let's just imagine, first of all, what that means to the NFL. You could have basically for every 10 minutes of play, you could have an hour of Red Bull ads, right? I mean, they have full control over it. They can do whatever they want. Another problem is in terms of the money that it makes, the way that players and teams are compensated. Imagine the NFL, for example, would make $10 billion a year, right? And right now, let's say in the NFL, let's say $8 billion of that goes to the teams and players. Now, Red Bull owns the event all of a sudden. They would say, well, why would $8 billion go to the teams of players and just $2 billion to us? Why don't we change it up a little bit and $9 billion goes to Red Bull and only $1 billion goes to the players and teams, right? They think that's fair. The point that we're trying to make is this is a reality that we're possibly looking at here with the Race to World First. If Red Bull owns the entire event, they can do whatever they want with it. They can compensate anyone or not compensate anyone in whatever manner they want. That is what we're trying to prevent, because the reality is that we have in video games is there is one owner of the game, which is Blizzard. If Red Bull assumes ownership over the Race to World First, Blizzard could technically enable them and say, yeah, that's all fine, and then we are all at the mercy of Red Bull entirely.
That's my main concern, and I think that was probably my strongest argument for what you guys were saying, is and that's purely an argument of self-preservation. So we obviously did this like classic dueling tournament a couple of days ago, and the idea that we wouldn't be able to distribute tournaments and do community-run tournaments if Red Bull was basically the de facto, not even de facto, like the established people that are, doing these tournaments, that's obviously very bad for us. Everybody should be able to do do tournaments in a community and not just have it all based around one company. I mean, I think almost everyone would agree with that.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's our main concern. We are absolutely open to Red Bull doing as much as they want the Race to World First as a sponsor, as a supporter of the race, but we reject the idea, like Scott said, that Red Bull has an ownership in this race. There's no reason why they should.
Well, I personally believe, like, as somebody who streams on Twitch, right, I think that it's a bad decision, right? It's misguided marketing for them to focus so much on trying to develop their own channel, because all of their views and everything aren't organic. So they're not going to stick at all. It's like hosting somebody and like thinking that those people are all going to watch the next day. It's a very bad idea, and there's plenty of other cases of it not working as well, and you see it every single day. So if somebody thinks that's actually going to work at Red Bull, I think they really should sit down and start talking to people that are, creators on Twitch and streamers and see like what they say, because it does seem like it's very, very misguided. That being said, I do have a question. Do you think that if Red Bull did not insist on it being on their channel, would you still be in partnership?
Possible, yes. I think we would needed to clarify with Red Bull that they are a sponsor, they are a supporter of this event, but not the owner. I think that needs to be clarified. The ownership, again, what we propose is that there should be only two owners, and that is Blizzard and the guilds that compete in it, right? Because we are the only ones really who have any kind of intrinsic value to this competition, right?
Yes.
What exact connection does Red Bull have with World of Warcraft or Race to World First? There is no real connection, right? So, as a for-profit company, what would Red Bull's interest be? Well, it is making money, right?
Yeah. Well,
You can
Method
also
is
say
a
the same thing.
for-profit company too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
we are a for-profit company, but the difference is we actually participate, right? We compete in this
That is true.
competition, so we do have another interest besides making money. And we've also, just to clarify, we've done so for 14 years. So it's not like Method has been a for-profit company. We've only been an organization, actually, a legal entity for the last 4 years. So we have 10 years of history of us competing in the Race to World First at making no compensation, making no money at all, just out of passion and pretty much dedication to the game.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of your best selling points, is that obviously you've been doing this for a long time and your interest in this predates the profit from it. And so obviously there is certain level of, as you said, intrinsic interest in it. And I think that really my main concern, right, is that whenever you're talking about this idea of the commissioner and everything like that, I think that it felt like the last paragraph was basically a resume to rationalize yourselves being the commissioners or the governing body around the Race to World First. And I'm not even really saying that that's undeserved, because obviously you've put the most work into it, you put the most time into it, etc. But whenever you have something like that, my concern is that how are people going to make sure that you don't basically do what Red Bull did?
Yes, to clarify, the commissioner part is, perhaps that was poor wording on our part.
We'll have it, yeah.
The commissioner is supposed to be neutral, as in it's not supposed to be, the commissioner is not supposed to be a Method. Imagine this as like a neutral party. It could be even you, right? Let's say the guilds elect Asmongold to be the commissioner.
God help
This is
you
not
guys.
supposed to be. Yeah, this is not supposed to be a commissioner that's employed or that's even Method. Of course, there might need to be like a temporary solution, like Method has already done this race 2 times. Perhaps for the next one, Method would need to do quite a lot of the heavy lifting, but long term, we're talking about the next years, 10 years, whatever.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be a neutral party, so the commissioner is supposed to be a neutral person, not directly affiliated with any of the guilds.
Okay. I mean, I think that my main concern is like how are these the money? How's the money going to be distributed? And I think that you guys probably don't even have the answers to that yet, because it's all very it's all hypothetical basically. And so I understand that you probably don't have the answers to all of that, but in general, I could see a lot of concern being like, how are actually people going to be compensated on a real level, right? Not just like kind of hypotheticals, but you know, what are people really going to get out of the event? What could this actually bring to the community?
Yeah, what's quite important here is to look at the viewership of the Race to World First, right? Again, we made comparisons to the Overwatch League playoffs or to a CSGO major even. The event is very big, and if you have an event of that scale, there is a lot of possibility to create sponsorship revenue. So what we think, it is very possible that, similar to other esports titles, that a lot of the players could do this for a full-time living if we have our construct. Like I said, and like Scott said in the statement as well, you know, you have League of Legends players. There's probably, I made a tweet about this recently, there's probably over 1,000 League of Legends players who play League of Legends for a living. So they make their living entirely from playing League of Legends professionally. So if you see that number of over 1,000 players who are able to make a living from a game, you know, it's not such a far stretch that maybe, let's say, 100 World of Warcraft players in the Race to World First could make a living. And 100 players, that would equate to about 5 guilds.
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of skeptical about that because, I mean, with League of Legends, you're distributing a sponsorship and you're I guess like spreading it out over like maybe I think like 5 or 6 or 7 people. But in WoW, I mean, if you have a whole raiding team, you've got 20 people. You've got to spread that sponsorship money across. Like, does every single person in Method even do all? I mean, like you've even said that like many of them have jobs now, which implies that obviously they're not full-time players to begin with. So I don't really think that you're ever going to get to a point where you can take a sponsorship. And this is also independent of streaming. I think the only way that somebody can, you know, for sure be okay with like being a you know, a professional WoW player exclusively is if they also stream, because I just can't really see the amount of sponsorship money somebody could get through this event. Because also the thing with the Race to World First is that it's very inconsistent. It's not like this is something that happens Monday through Friday. It happens,
well,
you know,
on that topic again. Just let me know, how much do you think the Race to World First is worth in terms of sponsorships?
That's a good question. Let's see, you said 10 million viewer hours?
Correct,
was
yeah.
that the number? Shit.
Say $1 million.
I'd say more than $1 million.
I think you'd be very surprised as to how much sponsorship revenue should be coming in for these events if the event is properly planned and sales are properly made against the events.
Think about this.
A revenue split with the guilds, which should be pretty substantial, actually, in reality.
Esports is sometimes a little bit underestimated. Think about it. Think about on a scale of a small sport, right? Let's say football in a small country. Let's say in Poland, right? I can tell you there's still probably 18 teams or so in Poland that have full-time professional players, all of them, right? And the football team generally also has about like 20 players or so with substitutes.
Right.
So if you think a small sport in a small country can have so many players do a full-time living out of their profession, if you then look at the Race to World First, 6 million unique devices tuned into the Race to World First. That's probably a lot more than most sports league get in terms of viewership in a small country, way more in fact. So if it's possible for them to have hundreds of players in the small sports league to do this full time, you would be surprised how easy it would actually be for, let's say, at least 3, 4, maybe 5 guilds to make a full-time living out of the Race to World First in a fairly short time span.
Well, let's get one thing out of the way too, is that the reason why obviously the World First race was doing so well, the reason why your numbers were so high was because of Method. If you have another guild, I don't want to go ahead and name any specific guild, but let's just say you have another guild come in and they don't have the same name recognition as Method, they're going to be bringing in a draw that's maybe 5% of what Method is going to bring in. And we were actually just looking before this, we were looking at the numbers that, you know, other guilds had brought in for COS and then also for Battle of Dazar War, and both of them were substantially lower than Method. So I think really the concern would be if those other guilds would really see any sort of meaningful compensation. And also, how would you be able to determine the value that they add to the organization and to the event? Because obviously it's not going to be a 1-to-1 ratio with the amount of value that Method adds.
Yeah, so I mean, I can tell you that one idea we were floating around. This is like we're still in the very early stages of just trying to develop how this concept would look like. Mm-hmm. But one idea we were floating around was that there would be one 24-hour stream. So basically, there would be one venue, let's say in NA, one venue in Europe. Those two feeds would go into one feed, and there would be a 24/7 stream. And this stream would, have all the talent on it. It would have like all the guilds on it, and this same 24-hour feed would be broadcast across all the guilds' Twitch channels. So like twitch.tv/limit, twitch.tv/exorcist, twitch.tv/method, and then obviously the fans can choose which stream they want to tune into and support.
How did you do sponsorship money though? Like, because that
the event, basically the guilds or the other parties involved in this could bring in sales against the event, and the revenue would be
so
split.
The sales would be individually based. It wouldn't be like group negotiations.
The sales would be for the entire event. So, for example, let's just say, like hypothetically, let's just say Limit came to the table and said, "Okay, you guys, we've got this, peripheral partner that wants to sponsor the event. Everyone agrees to it. The peripheral partner comes on board. That money then goes into a collective pot, and that is then going to get split between the guilds after the event itself, right? So the revenue share."
Right.
So the event would be sold against separately. So every guild and every team would have their own team sponsors, but the actual event itself would be a separate entity, so to speak. That sales would be made against, and the revenue would be split between the guilds.
Yeah, to make this simple as well as, I mean, I absolutely agree, like Method would probably bring more to the table initially as in terms of size, right? But you have the same issue in every league. I mean, even, let's say the LCS, I mean, everyone knows TSM, right? And TSM is probably one of the biggest contributors to league and the LCS. But there's also teams like FlyQuest, you know, who knows FlyQuest really? Not to shit on them, but it's not a brand as big as TSM, obviously.
Yeah.
So we're pretty sure that everyone will be fairly compensated once we pool the money and we find a fair solution of how it's distributed. The idea would obviously be that the top contenders would all be doing this on a professional basis, so they can all afford to play at the same level as the other guilds. And that is, you have to see it as well from our perspective with Method. That's very much in our interest too. We want to have strong competitors. Our achievement of getting a world first is meaningless if we have no one who competes on the same level as us.
Yeah.
It's absolutely meaningless.
Yeah, winning a one-horse race.
Yeah, so it's absolutely in our interest that our competitors are playing on the same level as us. Otherwise, the whole race, the whole competition just would become meaningless, and therefore our motivation to win would be non-existent. Which is, to be fair, that's one of the big reasons in the first place why Method decided to stream in Uldir.
Yeah, that was definitely the situation we were facing in Uldir. The community in general was very skeptical about the future of hardcore raiding. I don't know if you remember back at the time, Asmongold, but generally raiding was not in a good place. You know, people were not really raiding anymore because it was no longer the place where you got the best gear. Everyone was focusing on, like, you know, Mythic Plus, PvP, all that kind of stuff. The raiding scene was in a pretty dire place. There was barely any competition. And by actually streaming the World First race, it's brought a lot of excitement and everything back to the raiding scene.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely true. I mean, that's one of the main concerns that I really have, is that what is longevity of the hardcore raiding scene. And, you know, one of the positives with having a company like Redbull be involved is that obviously they have a lot of money and organizational skills to, you know, make sure that these things keep going on. But I also kind of worry that, you know, how do you think that Blizzard is going to respond to this whole thing happening, right? Just like the entire event. With like Red Bull and then these guys. And also, actually, you know what? I have a question before I even want to get into that. How did you guys find out about the other guilds being involved with Red Bull?
I know all.
Well, it's a very small community, right? The hardcore raiding community. So keeping something secret is not very easy, especially if like 25 people know.
Did Skype just whisper something there?
I said I know all. Woke up, scored 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's always been the case in the raiding community on Asmongold that things.
It's just information is being shared.
With teams with being obviously like 25 to 30 players, there's unfortunately always a leak somewhere.
There's a rat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I get it. Trust me, it's the same with everything. Even if you have like a dozen people, somehow the information is going to get out. So have you guys already approached Method or Limit or any of them on this event? Like, have you already talked to them privately?
To limit in pieces?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we obviously found out that Red Bull had reached out to them behind our back, and yeah, we wanted to talk to Limit in Pieces. Admittingly, one part of the problem here is that we didn't really have too much time before this event was coming up. Like, it felt as if Red Bull had already done quite a good job in convincing Limit in Pieces that this was the correct move for them before we really got a chance to speak to them. There was also we weren't quite prepared in terms of the concept, like how we could actually execute, let's say, a concept that would benefit a lot of different guilds quick enough for 8.2. That would be very difficult to implement. So we're looking more towards the future, I guess, in terms of like 8.3 onwards. But we did obviously try and explain the situation to Limit in Pieces, how being part of handing off the race world first to a third-party corporation is not probably the right long-term play, although it might be.
And how did they
argue,
feel
obviously,
about
in their case, that it might be more beneficial short-term.
Yeah.
We did try to offer certain options and alternatives, and I can tell you that, again, from my inside information, that Red Bull had to increase their offer to limited pieces, I guess, after they had those conversations with us. So it's kind of, unfortunately, it's kind of gone into that situation where you have Red Bull on one side now, who's approaching a lot of the, let's say, guild or talent that we've used in guilds of talent that we've used in the previous event, and, you know, having to offer heightened levels of compensation, or, you know, certain angles to try and obviously get them to be involved in the Red Bull's world first.
Yeah, I understand. Actually, that does bring me to something. Rich Campbell, you guys know him. He wanted to come in here and give like his take on it, because obviously he's been involved with like your race, and then also, you know, he's been in the WoW community for a long time. You guys okay with him having him come in here and give his take?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Hell yeah, let's get him in.
All right, let's
dude.
get Rich in.
Let's get him, dude.
I'll
Yeah,
message
sure.
him on Discord.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, I'm sure that's basically the case. And so, like, you're saying that Red Bull and then basically talk to those guilds kind of behind your back?
Well, yeah, I'm almost thinking now, if Rich is coming in the call, hopefully he's not also using this as an opportunity to try and leverage us to pay him more for this event, yeah?
Hey, you never know, man.
Right.
Don't miss a good opportunity.
I mean, wait, we've got almost 30,000 people in the stream right now. There's no way Rich would do something like that, right?
Of course not.
I mean, where's Rich? Let's get him in the call.
Well, I think everybody wants to give their perspective in front of an audience, you know? I mean, that's like really the case. Is like everybody wants people to see where they're coming from. Same as you guys, same as Rich and Red Bull. I mean, obviously, I think the chances of us having a Red Bull representative come in here and talk with us about this, basically zero. But I'd be really curious to hear what their perspective is. I think mainly, as I said before.
Honestly, I've got to say, I would, if it was up to me, I would honestly love to talk about this entire thing with a Red Bull representative in front of, you know, the audience that you have on the stream right now. The problem is that we, even if there was a Red Bull representative right here, it just wouldn't happen because of some, like I said, some agreements are in place. Like, yeah.
Hey, before I start talking, do you know where to send the check? So I just read the tweet longer. Like, woke up and read it. I think like the first thing that I heard with you guys is kind of the license thing's kind of a bitch, right? Like, you look at Friday Night Fortnite with Keemstar and look at all the shit that happened with licensing, right? So that totally get, right? At the end of the day, if you do anything with the game, if the publisher decides to do something, you can get like totally fucked. I totally get that fear. And I think that that's something like really important to talk about early, because even if, anybody in the community decides to put on their own tournament, like Keemstar, like anybody in this call, if you start giving, I believe it's if you start giving prize money is typically, or if you start selling ads against it, is when you start running into licensing problems, right? So I definitely get that fear.
There's one big difference though. I mean, if Blizzard would say, okay, you can no longer do this because we're doing this now. In the end, Blizzard is a game developer. They have the full right to do so, right? But This is not Blizzard. This is an external third-party for-profit corporation. We would respect it if it was Blizzard. In the case of Friday Fortnite, it was Epic Games, right?
Yeah.
But it's not Blizzard. That is the big concern. With Blizzard, at least you can also make the argument that Blizzard has, of course, an interest in their game doing well, and the game does well if, let's say, the live streams do well as well, right? So if you have a really popular Race the World First that's viewed by many people, that's amazing for Blizzard. For Red Bull, for example, if they can say they want the stream to do well to represent their brand and to also, make them as much money as possible, but they will also at the same time, of course, have the minimal cost. Because at the end of the day, if they can have a stream that's watched by 6 million people for $1 million in cost, or for $10,000 in cost, they will always choose the $10,000 option, right? And that's where I think our perspective as the guilds is very different. For us, this has never been just about the money. It's been also about the competition that we participate in.
I think everybody's trying to save money.
Well, yeah, the competition gets better players get paid out. I think everybody agrees on that,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody wants the players to do well, and I also totally agree that it's in the best interest of Blizzard. Like the shows that have happened, you just look at. I think the World First Race is probably the one of the most successful things in BFA, right? That's good for the raiding community. It's good for the game in general. I think more people probably watched that raid than even bothered to do LFR or renew their subs. I think that's inevitably like a very good thing for the game. And I think most of the community probably agrees with that.
Yeah, I received countless people, like, you wouldn't believe the amount of people who are telling me that they have resubbed the game or started playing the game again after watching, for example, the World First Race, or a lot of people watching the race who have stopped playing WoW for like 5+ years at this point. Because obviously with over 6 million unique devices tuning in, I mean, I think we all know at this point that that's substantially probably more than the overall subscriber count in World of Warcraft right now. So like the race World First is obviously a really great tool right now that Blizzard hasn't really had to put too much work into in terms of developing for, you know, generating subs to their game, of course.
Well, it's interest too. It's marketing. I mean, like, think about how much a company would pay to have their game have an extra 100,000 viewers on Twitch. I mean, it's a huge amount of money. I mean, people are getting paid $10,000 an hour to play games, and that's in front of like maybe only 10,000 or 15,000 viewers. So 100,000 viewers, that's huge amounts of money that obviously Blizzard is just kind of getting for free.
Yeah, my question is though, is like, where does the falling out happen? And excuse me if this is like kind of coming from a place where you guys already talked about it, because I'm just jumping in the call right now. Because like I think it totally makes sense if you guys and a brand don't want to work together, but I don't get why it's turned into what it's turned into, right? Because they were a broadcast partner, so like I feel like they delivered as a broadcast partner. Like I don't see where the break is, because
I think it's because it was on their channel. Like that's my understanding.
No, but the thing is, go ahead.
The break is that they are wanting to move the main Race to World First stream onto the Redbull Twitch channel and move it away from basically any kind of community channel. That is the break point.
But that's like that's pretty common. And then but if you don't want to do that, you just don't do it, right? Because the initial thing that happened was they were, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? When they were a broadcast partner, and these happen all the time, right? Like you see it with ESL and things like that. When they're the broadcast partner, they basically paid for production, they paid for talent, they paid for flights, like they do all that shit, and then they throw their logo on it, which is worth probably less than having it on their channel in their minds, right? If you look at ESL or something like that, when they white label an event, all of those costs have to be paid for by the person who accepts the bid from them. So I feel like that was the only thing where I was like, wait, this is a little bit weird, because I kept seeing tweets like Redbull never paid a dime. It was like, yeah, because they were a broadcast partner. They just paid for broadcast stuff in the past. If they wanted to move it to their channel and you didn't want them to move to their channel, I feel like that's an easy break, right? Just find a different partner that works better for you guys.
Well, that's basically what they're going to do, right? Is, I mean, they because Red Bull wanted to do that. I think that the main concern that I have, right, and that everybody else, that like we've been talking about, has, is that this could create a situation in the future where Red Bull could have some sort of like exclusive rights to making content or making tournaments, and that would kind of push out people in the community because they'd be working directly with Blizzard, which is kind of scary.
I
think that's basically what they're saying.
Fear. The fear is definitely exclusive ownership. Where it's not about the stream so much in the grand aspect, you know, the stream is just what's happening right now, but it's about Red Bull having exclusive ownership over the event. If you have Red Bull as exclusive owners, they can determine everything about the event, how the event is done, how much everyone's getting paid. You don't have any say in it anymore. That is the main issue.
Yeah, I totally get that, but I mean, just starting with previous events, right? Before we talk about future events, I just don't think it's completely true to say that. Like, I think that they were a perfectly fine sponsor. Like, I think what you guys did was incredible, right? And I think the World First Race was incredible. That they were a part of making that possible, right? I mean, to say that they didn't pay a dime, yeah, sure, they didn't pay a dime because it wasn't on their channel. They didn't pay for that type of sponsorship, but they paid for the entire broadcast.
So yeah, as a sponsor, absolutely. We never had an issue with Red Bull as a sponsor, and we would even bring on Red Bull as a sponsor for this new event. It's never about having a problem with Red Bull as a sponsor. We just, again, we reject Red Bull as an owner. for example, Scott mentioned it before, we had Discord as a sponsor come on for previous events, right? Why is Discord not trying to claim ownership over this event? Because with Discord, as well as with Redbull, we were always clear they were sponsors.
Yeah.
They were not owning the event. Imagine you would do an event. You mentioned ESL, right? Imagine ESL brings on a sponsor for one of their Counter-Strike events, and ESL then that sponsor comes to ESL an event later, said like, well, thanks, we're gonna do our own event now. You're welcome to do this event for us, but we own this event now. It's no longer an ESL event.
Yeah, but then also imagine if ESL paid for an entire event, and then the person that got to run the event and also profited off of it because it was monetized by them, then said ESL didn't give us a dime, when ESL just paid potentially a shitload of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars to put on an event, and then somebody tweeted out they didn't pay us a dime. Like, it's just not true. That's not what the agreement was. I definitely understand where the break is, that you might not want to work with a media company like that in the future, but like I just think that that's kind of a bold-faced lie.
Well, I think it's also it depends, right? And so like it is partially untrue and it's partially true, right? Was there direct monetary compensation that each individual player received? No, there was not. But there was compensation. There was compensation in the form of them paying for the advertising costs and the venue, right? So,
yeah, I mean, like, but that's what they were. They were a broadcast partner, and then there were other sponsorship partners that you had. I mean, I totally understand wanting to keep it in the community. I think that that's really, like, I do also agree that, like, keeping it in the community is good. I totally understand that part, but just make the split. I know that a lot of people are going to say, like, sell out and things like that, and that's totally fine. Go ahead and fucking say it. I don't give a shit. I've done this for a really long time, and I know usually what ends up happening for players to get paid the most money in the long run, you have to actually have good relationships with people who are going to pay the players, pay for flights, pay for talent, pay for the venue. This shit isn't cheap. And it's like the same when we ran our tournament. Elgato gave S-Fan stuff. That's like us going, Elgato didn't pay us a dime. No, they sent us stuff to help us do the show. That was the agreement. It's like, it's almost like, in a sense, being like just going back on the deal that you made.
We had gone by before, right? And that's why I had asked earlier why Method had decided to take that deal of not getting direct payment, and if they thought the compensation for setting up the event was sufficient, that's fine, right? And that's why I was making sure
it wasn't just that. Obviously, the compensation for setting up the event is all good and well. What we were always trying to work with Red Bull from Uldia onwards was some kind of long-term partnership, some kind of long-term agreement with Red Bull, for some kind of construct that we could do in the future, as in some kind of commitment that we were going to do, these Race to World First events together and develop them, or, some kind of long-term partnership in general. That was always like what we were trying to work towards. And I guess you could say the Uldia event feeding onto the BOD event, obviously there was a lot of disagreements in terms of whether they should take ownership of the stream or not.
So do you think that you undersold
basically you could say that
did you undersell the event because you wanted to make the relationship?
It's not that we undersold it, it's that I would say we put too much good faith into from our side, I would say. Like I said, it was Sasha was already saying it earlier, like after a couple months after Uldia, that this probably isn't going to work out. We should probably look for other alternatives. But like I said earlier in the call, because it was, the brand was Red Bull, and it's a brand that you would like to obviously work with in the future, and you have all this hope from various different email conversations and conversations you're having with certain people at this company, that it's almost like you get somewhat, I guess, blinded, or you are, it's difficult. Like the conversations we were having, it was like sometimes we were making progress, then all of a sudden, no, you're not anymore. That kind of situation, which dragged on for a long period of time, and then at the end of the day, we were kind of left with not too many choices, with BOD coming up quickly on the horizon.
Yeah,
like I said, for us, the commitment to do BOD was a combination of, one, good faith that we were going to work out a longer term solution with Red Bull, and two, that indeed there was going to probably some kind of partnership that guaranteed some kind of relationship on the future Race to World First. Because the big problem for us was, number one, Uldia, we massively undersold because we thought the event was going to be much smaller than it actually was, and secondly, BOD, again, it was another event that was no time to prepare for. We didn't get to develop our concepts in regards to involving other guilds and developing the event out. And then not only that, we also, again, didn't manage to actually properly, monetize that event at all, to properly, to really grow it, because the product was only known 2 weeks before in advance. Like that money, like that event was basically a write-off, honestly, in terms of the financial side of things. Like Mitch is saying, for example, that Red Bull provided let's say a couple $100,000 to produce the event or whatever. Like in terms of hiring a third-party production partner it wasn't produced by Red Bull themselves, but in regards to that, it doesn't really matter, because the fact that we only got confirmed 2 weeks before the event itself, it meant that Method wasn't able to monetize that event either, really, in a good manner. Because, like you're saying, with these kind of numbers, you'd be expecting to be selling big sponsorships, and in with 2 weeks' notice before Mythic release, that's just not going to happen. Like you could argue that if we had actually broken away from Red Bull, let's say a month after Rule Year, and actually find another partner or taken a different direction, that we would have actually, financially made substantially more income than obviously going with Red Bull. Like going with Red Bull was actually a negative impact financially than not. Yeah.
And there was no exclusivity, right, in the contract with Red Bull, that you couldn't take other sponsors?
No, there was no contract in place.
Okay. I just because I kind of want to clear some things up. Like if you guys have the viewership, which I agree, you guys draw the viewership, right? And that's like a really important thing. Look at the tournament that Asmongold S-Fan and I just did. Asmongold drew viewership. If he didn't draw the viewership, the tournament couldn't have been the success that it is. I totally agree that you guys draw the viewership. If the numbers are what you say they are, and it's going, which they are, right? And you're going to be able to draw additional partners, I don't understand the point of like flaming a partner online that potentially jeopardizes getting other partners. Like what's the actual point of coming out with all this stuff with Red Bull? That's kind of what I want to get down to, because I want to see the event do well in the future, but I feel like the tweet itself is just relatively petty after they were a broadcast partner and you decided to move away from what they ultimately did.
Think you understand the basis of the tweet.
So tell me, that was pretty much what I was asking there.
Well, I mean, I think you might need to reread it at this point.
I'm just seeing, like, I mean, I literally have it open in front of me right now.
I mean, we could have said a lot of things, right? But we tried to be as factual as possible in the tweet, not resorting to anything, right? They obviously, as with every event, there were a lot of problems with our event, right? Even between Method and Red Bull, but we didn't get into that because it has no substance to the overall problem. We're really just trying to point out how Red Bull owning the Race to the World First is an issue, and that's the course that they're taking. It has nothing to do that we have a problem with Red Bull personally. Like I said before, I would have no problem even bringing Red Bull on as a sponsor in the future. It's not that issue at all.
Okay, I just don't. I don't understand why people are like tweeting out that they never paid a dime and things like that moving forward when you are trying to do a new show. Like I think that you guys expect that your show is going to do the best, right? Like you guys expect that your show is going to get the viewership. So if you are going to be able to do all that, why does it really matter what they do? Is it because you're scared Blizzard is going to give them support, or is it something else?
No, the tweet wasn't really about that. The tweet is answering the question that people are asking us repeatedly all the time right now, as to why we're not working with Red Bull. That is literally the question that we get in our chat, on all our guild streams for the past few weeks. So obviously we have to provide the community with some kind of answer as to why we're not working with Red Bull, right? And like Sasha said, the answer we provided was you could say it was as tame as we could possibly give.
I'm just making sure I'm reading all the right tweets here, because I feel like maybe I'm reading one.
Well, I've only made one tweet.
I see the twit longer.
All we're doing with that tweet, and the first part of that tweet is answering a question that the community wants to know and deserves to know, I guess, after Method has obviously used Red Bull for the last two Race to World First events, and now they're basically wondering why is that not the case for the third event. So basically the first part of the tweet is answering that question as to why, and the reasons given I think are pretty clear if you read the tweet. And then the second part of the tweet is basically talking about the future of the Race to World First and how we see that being the best angle for the community long term.
So ultimately, you look back at Red Bull. They were a production partner. They paid for everything in the past few. Now you just don't want them to have control. You guys want to maintain control, and you guys want to have new sponsors moving forward through the World First race, right? Like that's like the TLDR. And now you guys are going to look for new sponsors moving forward, and you want to remain the IP of the product that you've created.
We don't want Method to be the owner. Of course, in the past we did Method's Race to World First, right? Because there was only one top guild streaming it, which was Method, right? But now other guilds have decided they want to do as well, and we always wanted to make this a full global competition. So we don't want Method to be the owner of this event. We want the community to be the owner of this event, meaning community, meaning all the top guilds. The only alternative that we see is Blizzard to be the owner of the event. That's the only two scenarios that we from our end accept.
But also, Blizzard most likely isn't going to sponsor an event that's put on by one guild, right? They're probably going to want it to be a multi-guild event because I think it would be kind of biased, right? To run one guild's event.
And
I think
to be clear, a multi-guild event is something that we've been wanting to do ever since the very first Race to World First, ever since Uldir. We wanted to do this for VOD even, but like I said, time constraints, not knowing what the product was until 2 weeks before the event was a massive factor in that. And in terms of our future plans, that's what's kind of laid out in the second half of that statement, is that we don't want this to be a one guild event. We want this to be a wider community event where all the guilds that are partaking in it actually benefit properly and fairly from it. Like that is our goal.
To make it fair, though, would you guys give up ownership over it and let somebody like Blizzard own the event?
Well, in terms of Blizzard, we would have no choice, right? If Blizzard decides they want ownership over it, they can take it. It's their game. So we would accept that, of course. There's no choice that we have anyways. But in terms of giving up ownership with the community, yes, again, Method would not be the owner of the event if it's a community event. Of course, we would be part owner as well as the other guilds. But we wouldn't be the executive director or owner of the event.
So you would be willing to give up ownership?
If we never owned the Race to World First to begin with. It was never owned by us.
So why in particular I don't understand the point then. Like if you're trying to hold on to ownership, that's fine. I'm really trying to understand here, and I know that like people are playing.
Okay, the Race to World First, it's in the statement as well. The Race to World First is a product of the community. It's owned by the community. It's been something that the community has run and maintained for 14 years. There is no Race to World First if the community is not there to, supporting the guilds and actually making an event out of it. Like, if there was no satisfaction or, hype received from any of the guilds partaking in the Race to World First from the community, then what would be even the point, right? The community drives the Race to World First right now. That is how it's always been for the last 14 years. Like Sasha was saying earlier in the call, Method itself has only been an entity organization-wise for like the last 4 years. For the first 10 years of the Race to World First, this was purely a passion project for us, and it remains passionate for us as well. Like the Race to World First is like our absolute core. It is what Method is basically.
I think the idea with having Method or having Redbull like own the event and like the implications of that could be bad. That's definitely true, but I also think that if they were paying production costs for it and there wasn't any sort of like an understood like that they were going to pay you guys money or whatever, I don't really know if it's like entirely fair to say they didn't pay anybody any money if that wasn't part of the agreement to begin with. I have not said that. I'm not saying that Red Bull should have paid us money or they shouldn't have paid us money. That's irrelevant in my conversation. No, but whenever you state that they didn't pay you any money, that creates an implication, doesn't it? I don't know. I mean, to me, it creates a very strong implication.
You must be referring to Darius' tweet then, I guess, yeah?
Well, yeah. Actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and make sure that I'm certain on that. Yeah, I think it is Darius' tweet. Yeah, that Method paid no money for it.
Yeah, I also was reacting to Derry's tweet as well.
Because, like, I mean, both of those,
In a
like, I
big
don't
way.
know how much of that is, like, and that's like completely true, though, right? Like, all of that is true. Like,
Davy is obviously in
Yeah,
Davy's tweet like that. I personally have nothing to do with how Davy has tweeted on her personal Twitter
okay,
account.
okay.
Like in regards to what she's tweeting, yeah, she's obviously referring to the fact, I guess, that the players themselves have not been compensated, or the guild itself has not been compensated directly by Red Bull.
Okay.
But like, it's like, so yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, that seems reasonable. I mean, like, I just want to make sure that was, like,
Yeah.
true, because, like, if they were just, like, if they were basically just producing the event, then that's one thing, but if there was some sort of, you know, like, bad blood or something not going the way that it was supposed to go, then I'd say that's something else. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, I think the idea of having a community-run world first race, the only problem that I have with that is, like, basically the same problem that I'd have with the Red Bull thing, is that, like, how do you guarantee that there's not going to be any sort of, like, weird collusion or unfairness occurring? I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't really know anybody from Limit or any of these other guilds that can come in and kind of give their take, but it seems like if there was a governing body for this, that would come with its own set of positives and negatives too.
I just think too, when you say Method itself had no partnership nor received any direct compensation from Red Bull, and then when somebody under your brand tweets out Method never received any compensation, it's slightly misleading in a few ways. It basically makes it sound like you were robbed.
You could say that is misleading, but then I also explained to you earlier in this call that the way that the events have transpired, it was actually a negative financial impact to Method by doing the BOD event with Red Bull because of the 2-week notice. Like I said, and like you said earlier in this call, if you think about the sponsorship revenue that these events should be doing, if we had actually set this event up for BOD, let's say 3 months in advance, knowing the numbers from Uldir with a different partner and actually having a defined product, I can guarantee you we would have made a lot of sponsorship sales, a lot of revenue that we could have then obviously...
Then why didn't you do it with another partner then?
Because I explained to you already, the reason for that is because we did have a lot of good faith in terms of working with Red Bull, which is obviously a mistake on our side. I've already admitted to this twice on the call, that it was a mistake from my part for putting too much good faith that we were going to, continue our relationship with Red Bull. Everything was going to be great. That is obviously a less hard lesson learned in this situation for me.
You gotta see the context of the situation, right? After all that happened, it was like a surprise to everyone, not just in World of Warcraft, but outside of World of Warcraft too. We had a lot of big brands come to us, and all of a sudden we got all the attention in the world, because it's not like you know that League of Legends Worlds is coming every year, right? But all of a sudden there was this one big event that no one expected, perhaps maybe a few people. So we had a lot of big brands, we had a lot of big companies willing to support us, invest in us. But we were committed to Red Bull, right? We said, okay, we're going to keep doing this event with Red Bull as the main sponsor. And we were waiting for Red Bull to basically put together the next event. And we only had the confirmation of what the next event would be 2 weeks prior. And with a 2 weeks notice, it's impossible to get any big sponsorships. No company would give you a lot of money if you give them a concept only 2 weeks before they're supposed to give you a paycheck. So there was a loss of a lot of potential income resulting in that. Which, to be fair, again, we internally, Scott and I disagreed about this. I don't blame Scott for this. Red Bull was always a dream partner for us to work with as a sponsor. So we took the risk. We said, okay, we think Red Bull will come through. Red Bull will support this event going into the future. And yeah, I mean, end of day, we were wrong. We made the wrong decision.
So in Uldir, that was a problem, but then you guys decided to work with them again, moving into the next race.
It wasn't a problem in Uldir. It was a problem for the preparation of BOD. So
Okay.
there was no problem with Uldir per se.
In Uldir it was clearly defined. It was very clearly defined what the relationship was. It was only after the success of Uldir that Red Bull obviously realized how commercially successful this event actually was, that they started to want ownership themselves. That's what happened.
Having the shit on their channel, I think, is probably like the biggest element of contention. At least, like, if I'm understanding right.
It is the
yeah.
only element of contention, but like I said, it's because it's a huge element of contention, not just for Method, but for the entire raiding community going forward. That is pretty much the single point of contention.
And it's about the implication, because once you have the stream, once you control everything about the event, that basically having the stream on your channel means you're the owner of it, technically, you know. And it was, for us, it was clear, obviously, as long as it was just Method streaming their perspective of the race to world first, obviously Method should be the owner of that stream. Now, again, the same example, if there's multiple guilds participating in this event, it should be those guilds who are the owners. There, in the end, that's the gameplay that you see. It's the gameplay of those guilds. It's not anything that Redbull does, really.
So just to clarify, because ownership keeps coming up, right? So if it's on your stream, you're saying that you have ownership of it, and you're basically saying that you want to see every single guild maintain their own piece of ownership for the event that they put on.
That's obviously up to discussion how exactly the live stream is going to be. It could be on a neutral channel with the rights for the guilds to show their own perspective on their own channels. That's an example.
Which would be the Redbull channel. That's like the break that I don't understand. You talk about a neutral channel. If Redbull's potentially that neutral channel and they're paying out players because it's on their channel, then it makes sense. When they were a broadcast partner and they were paying for players to fly out, when they were paying for talent to fly out, when they were paying for the staff that has to run the entire event, when they were paying for all of that, they were a broadcast partner. If there's a neutral stream and then all the players get paid out, I don't see the problem with that.
That's the issue. The Redbull stream is not neutral, right? And it's also not, there's no ownership at all from the guilds in that channel. This channel solely belongs to Redbull. So by that,
how is that not neutral? It's not a guild. It's somebody outside of it. You could literally say anybody is the commissioner if it's not a portion of the guild. You're giving up control to another party that's going to pay for the entire event and pay to all the people who they are using that content from. It becomes a content hub, and then all of the creators get paid out. That's how media works. That's how it's worked in esports for years. And that's like things like League of Legends. They give the ownership goes in one place. Teams make their money the way that teams make money, and all of those players are making good money. And that's what we want to see happen.
But in League of Legends, it's not owned by Redbull, it's by the game developer. Look, if it would be on the Warcraft channel or the Blizzard channel, whatever, on Twitch, we have no problem with that whatsoever. That's not the issue. Redbull, I think you see that they're not really neutral.
Okay, but also when you look at Riot does own their product. Look at Dota's IP. Valve puts on some shows, but also people bid for contracts. A lot of those people that bid for contracts are taking the same role. They're a TO. Red Bull has even run Dota events in the past. I mean, that's anybody that you're going to go to. It doesn't matter what the name is. You can completely blank out their name. They're becoming a tournament organizer, and they're neutral. They're inherently neutral. That's how it works.
The Valve concept with Counter-Strike and so on, that works as well, right? But the issue here is Valve doesn't just work with, let's say, ESL. There might be a Counter-Strike major by ESL, there might be one by PGL, there might be one by Faceit. We're talking about Red Bull getting exclusive ownership. Exclusive. There is no other party coming in. There is no reality where, for example, Monster would come and say, "Oh, we would like to pay 1 million for a sponsorship of the Race to World First." Monster cannot sponsor the event. By Red Bull having exclusive ownership over the event, they can decide if they want so to not have any sponsor involved. It's at their sole discretion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
any tournament organizer takes that right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Any tournament organizer takes that right to choose the sponsors. That's what you give up for having a tournament organizer. Like that's like saying, like Call of Duty World League, they have a portion of their show is sponsored by Mountain Dew, right? Because a portion of their show is sponsored by Mountain Dew. Yeah, of course they're not going to take a sponsor from another energy drink.
Yeah, but we absolutely agree then. A sponsor, right? But not an owner. Mountain Dew doesn't own the event, right?
No, a neutral party does, but that neutral party can be a sponsor at times. That happens constantly.
Well, I'm not aware of any big esports where a company like Red Bull is the owner of the event. You know, I mean, you mentioned Counter-Strike, for example. I'm not aware of that, at least. It's usually the majors, the Counter-Strike majors, are hosted by neutral tournament organizers like ESL, Faceit, and so on. Other leagues like the LCS and League of Legends is organized by Riot, the game developer. Again, we have no problem working with neutral tournament organizers like ESL. We have no problem working with game developers. It's the It's Red Bull is an energy drink company. They're not an esports company. They're not a neutral party.
So you guys want to find a partner like an ESL or something like that?
Like GCD TV, kind of, right?
It's a possibility, yeah,
for a
absolutely.
while, like something like that. Yeah, I mean, that would be great. I think that really, like, the only real concern that I had, right, going into this is that, you know, it does seem convenient, right, whenever you're going to want to, you know, move away from having, let's say, Red Bull be part of something, and then potentially just replace Red Bull with yourselves, right? And then instead of Red Bull being the governing body, Method hypothetically would be the governing body. And I think that's really the main concern that a lot of people have, is that, you know, it's, I think I use the phrase, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, right? It's like, what really prevents this from just reoccurring under a different name?
Yeah, I also, the other thing is, too, I mean, you keep talking about shows and who they're run by and who tournament organizers truly are. That would be like you guys having full ownership and it not being neutral would be the same as the NFL being ran by the Miami Dolphins, right? Like, obviously...
Correct, and we, just to make it clear again, we don't want ownership over the Race World First. We want the community to have ownership, which is the same as the NFL. The NFL is a construct of the teams that are in it. The NFL is a governing body elected and accepted by the teams.
Yeah, and actually having that governing body would have to be an external entity. And I feel like it's getting hung up on the idea that it is a brand that would potentially be that neutral party. Is that the biggest problem for you? Because it's a brand, you wouldn't want them to be the governing body.
Again, Scott's statement pretty clearly says that we would like, on the guilds should elect a neutral commissioner that basically acts on the behalf of the guilds. And that commissioner you could kind of compare to the NFL. The NFL is basically, you know, as an organization, a commissioner that acts on behalf of the teams. Usually in most esports, that commissioner is usually the game developer. Like you said, in League of Legends, it is Riot who acts on the team's behalf, whether the teams want to or not, in the end, because Riot owns the game. Which again is something we would accept as well if that was the case. If Blizzard says, okay, we elect to be the owner of this event, that's how it is.
I just think that there are some things that there are like slight contradictions, and I'm just trying to hammer them out to fully understand, because you're talking about ownership belonging to the community, and now you're saying that you would be fine if it goes to one of these neutral organizers, if it was Blizzard, and then it just seems like Red Bull's the problem, which is totally fine if it is, right? I'm just trying to figure out why the contradictions are there.
That's not a contradiction per se. It's like I said, the commissioner could be ESL, for example. The guilds could say that we choose ESL to basically be the commissioner, to basically be this neutral party, to do this on our behalf, right? The commissioner doesn't have to be one person. It can be an entity that we elect. Obviously, it can't be the guilds running the show because they're direct competitors in the thing. But we, however, we should give our expertise, and we also should make sure that we are being fairly treated as the guilds, right? And we can only do so if we are in some way involved in the competition. For example, by electing who is running the competition. That's the same way as... Yeah, that's something that the guilds would need to be agreeing on, right? That's obviously not set in stone. It could be something like a majority of the guilds have to agree that this is the commissioner, right? For example. The process of that is fairly simple. But yeah, it would be the participating guilds.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the idea of having the guilds work together to make the world first race an actual event, like fundamentally, regardless of if it's like Red Bull working with each other through Red Bull or just working with each other, you know, directly, like what you're saying, I think that's going to be good for the community. I mean, I think really the shame in all of this is the fact that it happened to begin with. I mean, the truth is that there's a lot of people, obviously, who, you know, do want to be part of this. And, you know, this event, as you guys have mentioned multiple times, which is very true, was one of the most popular events and also one of the biggest surprises to come out of Twitch in general in the past year or so, with the old deer race being so popular and then also the BOD race being able to meet that same standard. So really the concern that I have is that, you know, making sure that we take things and we keep moving that standard forward. And like whatever is really going to be able to do that, I think is going to be the best thing. And the only concern that I would have with like a player run thing is that the interaction and the relationship with Blizzard. I'd really love to see Blizzard be more involved with the world first race, and I think that they should be. It's just very difficult to incentivize that in a way that's meaningful.
Yeah,
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
absolutely. And this could have continued with Red Bull and still can. What we say is that we don't want Red Bull as someone who controls the competition. If Red Bull would kept being a sponsor, that would have been absolutely fine, right? Think about it. Why does Red Bull, as a company that sells energy drinks, why do they want control in the competition?
Well, that's what I was saying before, is that I really think that this is a misguided marketing plan. Because that control, they're not going to retain anything out of that. Having it on their channel versus just having it on, somebody else's channel with Red Bull branding. I mean, what's really the difference there? A differential of maybe like 10% brand value? Like, I don't know. I can't see it.
Brands are pretty easy to understand, right? I think that's another thing that we can all agree on. What does a brand want to do? They want to make money, right? I think everybody knows that going into it. Like that's what a brand wants to do. They're trying to make money. They made an investment into the product initially, and how they made their money off of it was to have their logo on the event, right? They paid for whatever they paid for. They get their logo on the event. Moving forward, they obviously see the value in the product. So they are trying to own media rights, right? Which is usually where a lot of they're trying to be a part of the media rights. And you look at the NBA, you look at the NFL, media rights are obviously what everybody moves towards. And that's where everybody, including the players, make all of their money.
I mean, we're getting really complicated here, but in general, I would say for sponsorships and any other rights, it should be an auction system, right? The highest bidder should obviously be on. If, for example, Monster comes and they say be willing to give the guilds $5 million, it shouldn't be the case that Red Bull then as the owner can say, no, sorry, the $10,000 that we are paying is going to be what the guilds get. Sorry, Red Bull.
Wait,
sorry, Monster.
That's false, though. That's how every single tournament organizer works. Like, literally look at CSGO. Pornhub wanted to be a sponsor for a long time. You had companies like Weed Maps that wanted to be sponsors for a long time, and all the tournament organizers said no. Like, a tournament organizer will always get to decide which ad runs. Like, obviously, porn and Weed Maps, it's a little bit different. I totally do agree there. But you already have an energy drink sponsor if your tournament organizer is an energy drink sponsor. I totally understand that. That doesn't mean that other ads can't be sold against it. There's just...
Again, if Red Bull has control over the event, they can choose whatever they want to do. The only reason if we ask, why does Red Bull want to have control, right? I mean, they already get the sponsorship. It's because then they can choose the price for their sponsorship, essentially. They can choose that their sponsorship costs them $10,000, or it could cost them $1 million. Why would a company have that right?
I mean, because the company is paying for stuff. I think that's where the break is for me.
If they choose to, if they have the ownership of the event, they can elect to choose whatever they want to spend. It's at their sole discretion.
Yeah, and then so the thing is I at no point do I think anything malicious happened. I think that's the most important thing that I wanted to do to clear the air. When I look at everything, it just seems like the entire point of the twit longer is to kind of say, and you can say whatever you want about what the actual words are, but the way that it all comes together, it tries to make it out to be like Red Bull is the bad guy, when I really don't see any bad guys in this. I totally respect what you guys are doing for the community, and I want to see you guys continue to do it for the community. I do think that this is one of the biggest things that's happened in World of Warcraft, but Red Bull was a part of it. They paid for those first events. They paid for production costs. You guys got your own sponsors, and it went really well. If now you guys want to have ownership, I can understand why you guys would want to have ownership. That would make the organization...
Again, we don't want ownership.
Money.
Absolutely not.
And that's fine. So if you want to give up ownership and you want to do a multi-guild event, you give it up to a neutral party. If Red Bull isn't that neutral party, because
I think the skepticism, I think all the skepticism and everything is going to be alleviated once the idea of this like neutral third party and this commissioner thing and everything are more defined. Because right now, a lot of the people that were concerned about it, including myself, right, don't really understand. It's like, obviously Method has a vested interest in being a leader in this thing. And also the more that involved they can get, the better off for them. Method is also a company. Method is also trying to make profit. And so once there's actually a rubric or a framework in mind as to whether how this thing's actually supposed to look, with like this neutral third party or whatever, with creating the event, then I think that people are going to be, there's like, that concern will no longer exist.
Yeah, and that's what we hope. I mean, we are hoping that we with the guilds, we can agree on something that is fair to everyone. And it doesn't matter to us who's involved in it in the end, if it's Redbull or another company or whatever. We just want to make sure that's under conditions that are fair for the guilds and that are not conditions that you could say that the guilds are taking advantage of.
And do you guys think that you were taken advantage of with Redbull?
Not for the 2 events. No, we never claimed that. We obviously, like Scott pointed out, we were not happy about the Battle of Dazalor event happening only with 2 weeks notice. So we only knew 2 weeks before. We were not happy about it, but we're not saying that Redbull took advantage of us for these 2 events. However, what we're saying is that Redbull has always tried to push the ownership of this event, and we're feeling taken advantage of now that Redbull is trying to.
You feel taken advantage of now that Red Bull went to the other guilds to create an event behind your backs.
Now that Red Bull is trying to take ownership over the Race to the World first. It's not so much about them going behind our back to the other guilds, it's about their intention of taking ownership over the Race to the World first.
I just thought, didn't you just say you don't want ownership?
I said I want the community to have ownership or Blizzard.
Well, it's basically, I don't think that they want a private for-profit company to have ownership because they think that's a conflict of interest. Is that basically what you're saying?
Correct, in terms of Red Bull, because they're an energy drink company, they're not a tournament organizer, for example, like ESL. It is technically possible to have someone like ESL being the owner, but again, I think this should be elected at least partially by the guilds. The guilds should have a direct decision-making power in this competition, which right now they don't, under the construct of Red Bull being an owner.
Well, I mean, they do and they don't, right? Obviously, they had the decision-making power to decide if they're going to work with Red Bull, but
yes.
They go ahead.
I just have one question, because if you guys don't want ownership, and you guys basically are kind of saying that you don't want Red Bull to be that neutral party that has ownership, essentially. And I understand the things that you're voicing. What if all of the other guilds, Pieces, Limit, all of these other guilds are comfortable with it? Then what's the problem with them? Because they have just as much of a right to decide where ownership could potentially go. Isn't that what we're kind of saying? If we're having a neutral party where everybody can govern together, every guild's interest is valued, and every guild has a voice, why can't the other guilds potentially wanting to go to Red Bull be the right move?
Absolutely, it's a free world. If that's the decision of the other guilds, then that's the decision. For us, we think this is gonna be really bad for Race World first, so we reject the idea of Red Bull being that party that's hosting it for the reasons that Scott mentioned in the statement and what we said here. If the other guilds decide otherwise, I mean, it's their prerogative, really.
So in the long term, just to wrap everything up, right? In the long term, what do you see being the negative effects of Red Bull being involved in the way that you're explaining them being involved, right? Having it be on their channel, etc. Where do you see things being a problem?
Again, the problem is that the channel is basically a symbol for ownership right now. There's nothing else, right? You cannot just give someone the crown and they're the owner. Having this stream on your channel makes you per se the owner right now.
Yeah.
That's what we see the problem being. And Red Bull being the owner again, because Red Bull is all over this race, right? Where if you look at the Battle of Dazalor race with Method, you saw Red Bull everywhere. The logo was everywhere. We're drinking Red Bull 24/7. If Red Bull is the owner, they can decide the price for this. They can decide this is worth $5,000, this is worth $1 million, and effectively they can cut out any other potential partner that's willing to pay more than them. And that in the end would then mean that the guilds don't get the compensation that they could, because Red Bull is setting the price for this. Red Bull is making all the decisions on their behalf. And Red Bull also, by the way, that's another point of it, Red Bull is controlling how this show is going to look like. It could be, for example, we're interrupting the Race to World First right now for a 2-hour advertisement for Red Bull. This is, of course, an extreme example.
That's obviously being, but any tournament organizer does run the show, right? I mean, that's how it's gone with MLG. That's how it's gone with everything. That's even how it goes with Blizzard, right? I mean, I can give a little bit of perspective working for Blizzard. If they told me to plug an ad, I plugged an ad, right? Because that was my job.
Yeah, but let me interrupt you there for a second. Don't you see the difference between MLG, Blizzard, and Red Bull? Don't you see that major difference? You're saying a game developer, Blizzard, you're saying an esports tournament organizer, MLG, and then you're talking about an energy drink company, Red Bull. There's obviously a very big distinction here.
I mean, I've worked many events that were put on by sponsors as well, right? The whole argument that I was making there, and then go ahead. The whole argument I was making there is that even if it is not a brand, the tournament organizer still has that control. I think when you talk about a game developer, they have the same right if they are that neutral third party. Do you see where I'm coming from with that?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but let me ask you the following question. So Red Bull, I know they do, for example, fighting game tournaments called, I think, Red Bull Battleground Zone. Let me ask you the following question. How many other sponsors are on these events?
I would have to look it up, but I'm assuming the reason you brought it up is because they're the only sponsor, right?
Exactly, 0. And that's the point. If you look at Red Bull and esports and other events that they host, there are absolutely no other sponsors involved.
And if the teams though are willing to do it for that price, then that's why they do it. I think that
the problem though. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
The
go
problem
ahead.
that he's getting into is the fact that if they establish a monopoly, right, through Blizzard, then it doesn't matter if what the players want or not. It's like saying, well, you can either have internet or not. Whenever you're like, well, I don't like Comcast. Well, too bad if you don't like Comcast. You can just not have internet. And I think that's basically what it is. And so, like, what he's saying is that because Red Bull has, like, basically sole, like, exclusive ownership of the event, then that gives them a certain amount of power that makes it to where they don't have to spend as much money in the same way, and they don't have to compete in a free marketplace because they already have ownership. Like, is that a good analysis of what you're saying?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
But if the other guilds are all willing, and this was something I already brought up, if Red Bull is willing to compensate all of the other guilds on a term that is favorable for them, and they want to do a show with Red Bull, that's not selling your soul away forever. It's basically saying that you want to do a show with Red Bull. Yeah. If other companies support it, like potentially even Blizzard, because if Red Bull is going to be doing it, they would probably need to have a license if they are compensating players to be involved, like a license needs to exist for any other IP. The thing is when we talk about Valve and all of these shows, these are examples that are brought up. If people do a major, if people do a minor, they have to bid on it. And then that brand, that tournament organizer gets access to it. They pay for that license. If we get in a situation where all the other guilds do want to go for Red Bull and it's in the best interest of them, why would we stop them? Why would that not be the best option?
Well, I mean, I can't explain it any more than Asmon just said it before, really. You can also see it like this: if Red Bull makes a good offer, let's say to the guilds, even to Method for Eternal Palace, which is coming up now, fine. But if the exclusive owner of the event in perpetuity, what stops them then from offering a fraction of that for the next event? It's of course.
The reason that I bring it up is because there's like a level of permanence there that is pretty much being floated when this is essentially agreeing to take a bid, right? Like this is a bid of the show, and it happens to be a bid that is coming in from a single entity.
So, Rich, your argument is that that Method's assertion here is done with the presumption that all of the other guilds would prefer to work independently without Red Bull. And you think that the guilds should have the right to decide, do we want to work with Red Bull or not? And if that is what they want to do, then if the goal is to execute the will of the community, and the will of the community is to work with Red Bull, then logically working with Red Bull would be the will of the community.
Yeah, I don't see how
and that's what you're saying, though, right?
yeah
Okay.
yeah, you pretty much hit it on the head.
I think that honestly, the main thing that we need to do now is just wait for more information.
Yep.
Like that's really what it comes down to. I want to see what Red Bull is going to try to bring to the table. I want to see what you guys are going to try to bring to the table in terms of what does a tournament like this look like? What does a governing body like this look like? I don't know. We'll have to find out. And I think that's really the main thing that I'm concerned about and I'm curious about. That's basically it.
Well, what a discussion. What a interesting discussion.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we weren't able to get people from the other guilds in to see like their perspective, but also, I mean, it's a good point there is that a lot of them probably can't even talk about it to begin with for whatever reason. So I guess that's the way it goes. But I hope that whatever happens is going to be good for the community. And I think that's what people's concerns are with Red Bull being involved, and I think that's what people's concerns are with anybody like that being involved, making sure that these things are actually good for the community. They're done for the community, by the community. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, do you guys have any other thoughts? Because we're gonna go.
Closing thoughts here.
Yeah.
My closing thoughts, I mean, just to repeat what you just said, I think the main objective should be that the race world first is in the best interest of the community. In my opinion, there is no reason why Red Bull needs to have control over the race world first in order to do so. I see no reason why Red Bull could not sponsor the race world first, leaving the control with the community. There's no reason for me for that.
Okay, that makes sense. And Rich?
Yeah, I think my closing thoughts are just when I do look at how everything was conveyed, it seems like it is presenting the information in such a way that makes it seem like Red Bull essentially didn't pay for anything, and that makes it seem like they didn't pay for all the production costs of the previous events. And I think that also it is not necessarily being fully true about where control should lie, because I don't think it actually takes the other guilds into account. And I think that the way that it's handled might be toxic for the future of the community and actually hurt other guilds in the future. That's my problem with it. I think that's actually bad for the future of the World of Warcraft community.
Okay. Sko, do you have anything else to add? Or are we good? Or Scrap?
Yeah, all right. I guess I'm still here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us on the on stream to talk about this a little bit further. It's obviously a very serious issue.
Yeah.
And it's like I said at the start of this call, it's been extremely stressful over the last month, kind of talking this back and forth, and to finally get something out in the public domain, like, and being able to actually answer those questions. That's why we're not doing this event with Red Bull this time around. Definitely does feel like a bit of a relief, a bit of the weight lifted from the shoulders. Obviously, we're full steam ahead now with preparing for the event that we're putting on. And in terms of that, we should have an announcement out, if not tomorrow, then Monday, absolute latest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody's looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in the next event, especially now that it's going to be independently run, and also to see the other competing events. And I don't know, I think this is going to be very, very interesting, just for the sake of the whole event and how this is like all turning out. So I just really hope that at the end of the day, kind of like going back to what Rich was saying, that it ends up just being good for the community in one way or another. So I think that's basically what we all want, and it's good for you guys in a way. I mean, there are people who are skeptical. I mean, it's not good for Method if the WoW community is not in a good shape.
I mean, listen, I think no matter what happens after this, it's good that this has been like obviously brought out into the community, and it's a talking point, right, as to how we're going to move this race to World First events forward, because they're obviously these events are obviously huge. They took everyone by somewhat of a surprise. So I think it's important that at least it's actually a conversation we're having as to how this is going to develop into the future. We just need to make sure it's obviously healthy for the entire World of Warcraft community. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what matters. And also, I mean, thanks a lot for coming on, guys. It really means a lot, because obviously, you know, like talking about it and, you know, having like our takes on it is one thing, but then actually hearing from you guys really what you're thinking is and everything really does help out a lot. So I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
All right. Well,
Thanks for trying to break our balls, Rich.
Dude, it's fun, dude. It's fun. I just like talking, man.
All right. Okay.
Right. Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Yep. See you later.
Good night, everyone.
Peace.
Good night.
Well, there it
Oh.
is.
Shit.
Yeah, there it is,
Jesus
dude.
Christ.
Yeah,
Now we can. Now we'll just let the YouTube comments decide its fate.
Well, I'm sure that YouTube, I sure YouTube comments. I mean, they always know exactly what to say and what's done, right? I mean, that's all it comes down to. Just a second. It's off. Okay, let me see. Let me turn that off real quick. Professional way to handle something. Well, no, I think that everything did go pretty well. I mean, there was no overall, like, nobody really got mad. And this is. No, I mean, not really. I mean, like, not really. Overall, I mean, this is usually how people handle things. I know everybody wants to see a giant argument and people screaming, but generally, whenever people have a disagreement, they just talk about it, and that's about it, right?
What up, S-Fan?
Hey, what did I miss?
Everything.
Oh, okay.
Jesus.
Yeah?
That's a Coke, right?
What the fuck?
What?
That's a Coke, right?
What's going on?
Yeah, that's not a.
Yeah.
What are you drinking there, dude?
Wait, what? What's the big deal?
S-Fan, what are you drinking, dude?
Uh-oh.
It's a sugar-free.
Really?
Sugar-free what, dude?
Oh, it must be water. Water's sugar-free.
Oh,
Yeah, that could be it, right? I was going. Yeah, I mean, I hope you guys understand, like, whenever we talk about stuff like this, it's not a big deal. Right? It's not a big
Dude,
deal. We just
they
talk
had
about it.
Chad had a real problem with opposing viewpoints. They were.
Really?
Chad was getting upset, dude.
Yeah, of
like
course
very
they are.
upset.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they did not.
It was so bad that I
No,
had to...
dude, they did not. Why are you arguing with me on this?
Okay, dude.
Good one,
No,
dude.
no, it's see, yeah, people can't really understand argument. Like it, we're doing Rich basically. So, but yeah, I mean, like, there's no real arguments usually. People just say that somebody's stupid. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we could bring in. I like bringing in people from chat and actually talking with them about like what their concerns are or opinions are. I'm not saying we're gonna do that today or anything like that, but overall, I do like doing that. So, Rich got trolled. I don't think Rich got trolled or anything. I mean, Rich is coming at it from one perspective. Sasha and Sko are coming at it from another perspective. I mean, that's really all it comes down to. And, both of them, like, I think at the end of the day, they want to make sure that the WoW community is in as good of a place as possible. And like you can say, like, Method also wants to make sure Method is doing well, which is also true. But I mean, it's not good for Method if the WoW community is in a bad place. And also, it does diminish some of the excitement that people have about like the world first race whenever people already know who's going to win, right? And so it's in their best interest to have it be, much more of an event. You know what I mean? Method brings 90% of the viewers. I'd be surprised if it wasn't more, honestly. And that's what we had looked at before, is the fact that Method is, the amount of viewership that they bring to the tournaments to the events and everything is much higher than anybody else. Rich made a lot of good arguments, but viewpoints involved, players need to earn enough money to live. Well, yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. I mean, the thing is that, like, players, it's that, is being a professional WoW raider, is that a valid or is that something that you should expect to be able to do? Like professionally. I don't really know. In like my perspective, I was gonna ask him if Josh was gonna raid with them. Fuck.
Oh, well, I don't think
yeah, I was gonna. I thought of that, and I like saw it in chat.
I wouldn't ask anything about Josh.
So I would ask it right at the end, dude. Like, I mean, just see, like, yeah, we don't know. Okay, that's fine. It's not a big deal. I forgot to ask. I was thinking it exactly. Redbull isn't a typical event organizer. Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Is like, obviously, like, my concern is I really wish that I could sit down and talk to somebody from Redbull and, I could help them develop a better media strategy than try to put everything on their own channel. I don't think that's a good idea, and I also think they should probably do it through other different organizers and then just be a secondary sponsor or an endemic sponsor. It seems a lot cleaner that way, and unless Red Bull actually wants to create a whole new studio and everything and move into that and actually be a production company, then I don't think it's a really good use of their time or of other people's time either. So if you me, Justin, they want a monopoly. Well, of course they want a monopoly. Everybody always wants a monopoly. Monopolies are good for the people that have the monopoly because they make a lot of money. That's just the truth.
Yeah, but generally monopolies are bad. I mean, look at
well,
Walmart.
it depends, right? It's like if you are, yeah, but if you're somebody whose last name is Walton, I think Walmart having a monopoly is fucking great for you. And that's what I'm really trying to say, is monopolies are really good for the people that are involved with them, but not necessarily for like the greater community or the greater amount of people as a whole. Red Bull recognized brand, bring new people. No, I don't think that's the case. I don't think Red Bull has any sort of endemic draw to different events that other people don't have in other ways as well. Am I gonna die here? No, I'm not. Okay, I healed myself there for a second. Yeah, I really don't think that, like, nobody is going to watch an event, right? And the people that are going to watch the event, it's going to be very minimal. Nobody's going to be like, oh, wow, I'm going to watch this because Red Bull is doing it. It doesn't really seem like it makes sense. And I don't think that's a good idea. And also, if it was, like, look at NVIDIA, for example, or Razer, right? Whenever basically Razer would pay people to stream on their stream, right? Whenever Swifty would stream on there, etc. It's not like Swifty was doing that randomly. NVIDIA, same thing. Those websites and those channels weren't getting a huge amount of viewership or anything, or they were just getting their base viewership of maybe like a couple hundred viewers. So I don't think there's any sort of like a, intrinsic draw to having, it be on a Red Bull channel versus just on somebody else's channel that can advertise it to more people. How can Red Bull possibly have a monopoly? What would obstruct other brands from sponsoring guilds? Well, I think that it's really the difference between like having a brand sponsor guilds and then also having a brand be the governing body of an event that guilds are part of. And I think that's really the difference and the concern that a lot of people have and that Method had. And I can see where Rich is coming from too. Because obviously, like, basically Red Bull helped them set up the event. And if Red Bull is helping them set up the event, that's basically what Red Bull is bringing to the table, right? I mean, they're helping them do the event, and that's what matters. But I think that also the players do need to be compensated. In my opinion, I think that Method made a mistake by not doing the event remotely for the first one. I think they should have done it remotely and independently. And if they had done that, I think they would be in a completely different spot, and we wouldn't have the situation that we have now. That's personally the way that I look.